Hey guys, hello and welcome to Spudlife with me, your host, Tatty Tim. Okay, so here's a little taster of what to expect in this week's episode. So, did you learn much?
Probably not consciously.
No.
Yeah.
I think Mike's done a classic thing, like we've discussed with each other, that history is one of those things that, no disrespect to our teachers, some of them would have been fantastic,
Yeah.
but you have that thing sometimes where, as a child, when you're at school, and some things you associate with being, oh, that was a boring subject, or that, and maybe some of the teachers were responsible for not being as good at it. But we've
near Kirby Stephen, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or somewhere. Where Uther Pendragon built this castle.
Is that a lot of? Is that?
And
a lot
it's
of
some way
fun?
it's a ruin, yeah.
Is it?
And he, of course, Uther Pendragon was King Arthur's father.
Yeah.
And the story is with that one.
actually adults are ready for that as well.
Yeah.
And you know,
Do you find you have like an alter ego then that comes on stage?
Probably, yes.
Well, yeah,
Do you both?
I definitely have
Both,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
Wild to keep the fell sheep in. I am the care and the tokens we share. The air so breathe me in. No burn marks on the ground. No equine reference found.
Hello, here we are again in the Caravan of Love, and this week I've got two fabulous musicians that I met actually beginning of this year. I saw them both ages ago, but I was just a puncher in the audience and they didn't even know I was there. So, but I was secretly thinking of things. These are interesting. And then I finally met up and managed to chat with Mike and Kate, known as Bri Bramble, a local sort of Cumbrian contemporary folk act. Would that you say? That's about right?
Yeah.
Based at South Lakes.
South Lakes, just south of Kendal.
Yeah.
Thing.
And tonight we're going to be talking all about their sort of love of the lakes and these fabulous tunes that they sort of concoct and create out of all the folklore and all the fantastic history of Cumbria and the Lake District, and going way back when, don't they?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see on this sort of angle of the camera, but there's some instruments in the house tonight in the caravan, so we may be having some live music as well. So it's all good. So how you doing, guys?
Good,
Yeah,
thank you.
great,
Thank you very much for coming. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So music, I mean, invariably, no matter what guest I have on the show, we always usually end up talking about music because it's the food of, I don't know, it's just great.
Of life.
It is, isn't it?
Connects everybody.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even people that I wouldn't necessarily have thought were into music surprised me with their love of a particular genre, or their love of music in general, and it's like, wow. So to get two musicians on, to be able to just talk
So
music.
this is going to be 100% music.
Yes.
You're not going to get to it at the end. It's going to be from the start.
Start to finish.
Yeah.
Is there not going to be little nuggets I might be able to prize out? Yeah,
Maybe.
We'll see. So where did yours two kind of love of music begin? Was it sort of way back, sort of pre-teens, would you say? Or?
It probably it's
For you,
early.
especially.
It's kind of newish for you.
Is it?
So,
Yes.
but
Newer for me than for Mike.
Yeah, but my music life starts back at the age of 15.
Yeah.
You know, and when everybody else was not giving ages away and stuff, but when everybody else was into sort of the new romantics and post-punk thing, I was listening to the Who. You know, things from 20 years before that. So I was listening to the Who and completely obsessed with Pete Townsend and songwriting.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to get into.
Yeah.
And so I kind of taught myself how to play guitar.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I mean, that was proper old school back then because there was no YouTube, no internet.
It was just
There
books.
wasn't even computers.
I think I had a book.
It wasn't taught a lot in schools.
No.
You were lucky in some schools.
I had this book that was all about guitarists, basically, and in the back of it were all the chords, shapes, and whatever for everything.
Was it in like tablature or what, or was it in?
No, just in when you see the six strings with the dots
in.
and where you and what they were called.
Yeah.
And so it was for every chord.
Yeah.
So it was going from all the major chords, all the different ones, the seventh, the ninths, the weird 13ths, and all that kind of thing, and the minor versions, and then in every key. And I just learnt a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I was really kind of good because I liked the sound of the chords.
Yeah.
Just the voicings of those chords were
yeah.
just amazing. And so instead of just learning the basic ones, I was learning all these weird ones. And so by the time I got to play with other people, I was like, what are you doing? What's that? What's that shape?
Weird ones.
I was going, well, this is
You
A
got
minor.
some
This is
ambidextrous
A minor.
finger action
This
going on.
this is A minor 9.
Yes.
What's your
Obviously.
problem?
Yes.
And they were just playing A minor, But I was colouring it up and making it sound really kind of musical, I think.
Yeah.
So I did that. So that was my first foray into that. But because I played a lot of my own at that time, I was eager to play the other parts for myself.
Right. Yeah.
So I learned bass at the same time, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I learned to play bass. So the last, God knows how many years, I've been in and out of different things, playing either bass or guitar.
Right.
And then and that was all kind of, so that was all that kind of stuff, Pete Townsend-y kind of stuff.
Yeah, because that was
very melodic kind of rock stuff.
Well, that was the era when Quadrophenia came out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's
the film. Yeah.
I mean, what a soundtrack to that film.
Yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can kind of see where you're coming from with that. Because I was in a band in the similar time scale. And we were playing, it was like a sort of a mod kind of R&B, but not R&B as people would know R&B now. Mm-hmm. I'm talking like, Small Faces, Yardbirds, all that kind of sort
that
of
kind of
60s R&B
version of it, if you like. Yeah.
So it was kind of like I was in that same 20-year previous period that you were. But it was something about some of those tunes.
Yeah,
they just, and I think they still resonate now.
I liked I liked the basic structure of the sort of intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bit of a short solo or something, and then and I liked that, and of course that's what you got with modern stuff at the time, with the New Romantics or the Police or whatever it was at the time. Yeah. But I kind of liked the old. I was kind of going backwards. I was kind of discovered. I don't know what it was. I think it was Pete Townsend I discovered. Right. That's what I discovered first. I thought, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
And went backwards. So I went and sort of went back in time to where he started.
Yeah.
And then collected all the albums and listened to all of that. When everybody else was listening to all the stuff that we should have been listening to. Yeah. So that was kind of where it all came from.
Did you find that you went down little rabbit holes? Like you got into the Beatles maybe or the Stones because of
definitely,
getting into
because I remember there's a big Beatles book that's like a big, mine was like a pale like a pale sort of yellowy colour thing where it's like that and it's got all the songs in. I remember buying that and going through that and just playing. I'm like, I don't know this one, and then playing it and going, yes I do, because I think over the years as a kid I must have just heard these songs on the radio. And they were just there, and so I would look at the title and go, I don't know this one, but I'll play it. And I was going, hang on, that's of course I know that one. I know it backwards. Of course I do. And that's what their stuff's like.
What point did you find that you thought, actually, it's only sort of the same 3 or 4 chords?
Yes.
When did that eureka moment happen? Do you think?
Well, one of the first things I wanted to do was write my own stuff. So even though I didn't really know a lot, I was still writing. I would write a song. With basic knowledge of say 3 chords at the time. Say. And so it very early on is the answer to that question because I realised I was doing it for myself.
And because you do that, you hear the sound, you think, oh, that's a lovely sound. Because you know when you've got a chord wrong.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yes.
I know when somebody gets the chord wrong.
But then when you hit that sweet spot, it is amazing. And then when you transition, for someone who's learning the string sort of banjo, guitar, ukulele, whatever, when you can get that transition from one chord to another kind of seamlessly, then it's like it's another level again, then, isn't it? But it's
I mean, you identify with that because Kate's quite new to this. So I've only been playing mandolin a couple of years, really, and I've taught her. I've taught her.
And that was between 2 house moves and job changes
and all sorts.
Right.
But I taught you a few chords, and you were sort of that typical thing where everybody starts, where they play a chord and then they take about 10 years to change to the next chord. She was like that.
I've had 10 years.
And then eventually she was looking at the sheet and just doing it without very, very quickly.
Much, right?
And so so that you kind of experienced, what Tim just said about when you
flow
when you start to float and it sounds musical, it's like, oh my God, I'm doing something. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. You know.
And it is a great feeling when that happens, isn't it? It's just like, because you've gone from that, because it doesn't seem that long previously to when you're going, oh, I'll never get my finger in that position.
I'll never get that one.
How do you get your finger there? Yeah. And then all of a sudden...
Or if it's there, I have to stay there now. I can't move anywhere else. Or maybe
I'll
I can.
just strum up and get a different sound from down. So I'm guessing sort of school bands, local bands were a thing.
Yeah, a bit of a school band to start with.
The usual sort of...
And then after sort of just as we left school, I got together with a couple of friends and we had a bit of a trio thing.
Yeah.
But the
Do you want some
guy...
future?
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. The guy who played keyboards was a little bit more unconventional as a person, shall we say? And he would, you know, instead of going to practice, he'd be like, "Where's Finney?"
Yeah.
Oh, and we'd ring his mum or something.
Yeah.
And he'd go, "Oh, he's in Scarborough." You know, he went to Scarborough for the weekend. But, you know, so without telling anybody, you know, he was like that. He would just go. So eventually it became a duo, me and my friend Neil.
All right. So what, just basing?
Well, I played guitar. What did we do then? I think I was playing guitar and Neil was playing like a keyboard.
Yeah.
And we had a drum machine.
Yeah.
Because it was still around at the time anyway.
Yeah.
Then we said, right, we don't want to do this anymore. We want a band. And so I kind of fell on my sword and said, look, I tell you what, let's get a really good guitarist for all seasons. You know, someone who can emulate the Edge, for instance, someone like that, who can do lots of things. And Neil said he knew somebody. So I said, look, I'm happy to fall on my sword and play bass because I've been playing bass all the time as well.
Yeah.
I said, I love bass anyway.
Yeah.
And so I play bass. We had a guitarist. Neil was still doing keyboards.
Yeah.
And we got a drummer.
Yeah.
So we were a conventional band all of a sudden. And that was the late 80s.
So doing a few covers and doing a bit of your own stuff?
No, it was all our own stuff from the very start. Very kind of Simple Minds and U2 influenced, basically. That kind of epic stuff, you know. Simple bass lines, but epic, you know.
Quite different to what you've heard us play.
Exactly. Very much, and it was, we did that until early 90s, I suppose. Yeah.
And you were sort of gigging locally?
Yeah, around sort of Kendal area, mainly.
Yeah. It's good fun though, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was brilliant. Yeah.
When I came up here, so I'm from Birmingham, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
And we came up. So I was in this band, this sort of R&B band, and we had like a bit of a manager at the time, and it wasn't. I suppose we were big in our area, but not anyone out. 20 miles away would have never heard of us. So you had a little following of sort of loyal followers. But the manager managed to get us a gig in Carlisle, of all places. So it was that classic. You got a transit van, just chucked everything in the back of the van.
Yeah.
Mattress, my drum kit because I play the drums, and then off we tootle up the M6, and then play one gig at this bar in Carlisle. I think I'm only like 14 or 15 at the time.
Oh, wow, God,
I was
very young.
Really young,
I'm in a band.
It was great. I was like knackered at school because I was playing all these gigs and that, because we had this residency in this. There was a sort of a big pub scene. So, and you know what it was like back then.
Yeah.
It was easy to get in boozers and that.
There's no idea, was it?
Nah. So it was kind of like anyone could get in, and because I suppose I was in the band, so to speak, they didn't even think twice of it anyway. So, but I didn't drink or anything. But it was just, you were in the band, and you only should have been staying at home doing your homework. But no, I was off around the Midlands doing this rock and roll lifestyle. So it's kind of like that. It's just a good thing to do, innit? And I don't know if kids kind of do that nowadays, because obviously
not experience that live.
No, because I'm hoping to get there's a young lad coming on. There's a DJ, so it'll be interesting to get that perspective. Because it's all there's a lot. I know there is a sort of obviously festivals wouldn't exist if there wasn't a sort of band scene anymore, and there is a band scene, isn't there? But there's equally probably a bigger electronic sort of dance scene as well, isn't there? You know what I mean?
I think we don't see many younger ones like that in the fields we play.
It's in phases, I think, because early there was no bands particularly in the 90s apart from obviously the big ones, Oasis. But not much else because they came in mid 90s where nothing was. Music industry was rubbish.
Yeah, it was.
And all of a sudden you got these bands, and then that spawned lots of young lads wanting to be the Gallaghers and having a band. Then you tipped into the early 2000s. You had the likes of Coldplay doing a similar thing, but sort of pushing the boundaries a bit further and making it a bit more U2-y, if you like. And then it kind of waned off again, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because in the late sort of in the 2010s, it went back to sort of more dancey stuff, you know, and more kind of electronic and more produced stuff. And I don't know where we are now with it, to be fair.
Out of that, didn't sort of like bands like the Arctic Monkeys then kind of came along?
Yes, so that would be about 2004-ish, 5.
Was it that early?
And because I thought, oh, brilliant, good lads, you know, because you're sort of booking the system a bit. You're going, you know, I want to get, and they were fantastic. Yeah, they were probably an exception because they came along and
they sounded like how they spoke, didn't they?
Yeah,
you know, they weren't trying to sound like an American.
And it was kind of nice to
they sounded northern.
You know, there was almost a resurgence of punk with them.
Yeah. Because they had that sort of punky attitude, didn't they?
Straight away, those first few songs.
Because I think that's what's missing as well nowadays. There doesn't seem to be that sort of rebellious streak that there was, you know, when we were growing up. Because I suppose when we were growing up, there was still a lot of, I mean, our generation spawned a lot of new things at the time, didn't we? Yeah. So whereas now, no one can kind of come up with anything new anymore because it's kind of all been done before, isn't it?
It's not a lot you can do now. No. Maybe that's why there's not been a lot in the last few years of new bands. And I think ironically, in the last 6-7 years, I've got into the folk scene, the English folk scene. And that is rife of lots of people like myself, either solo, duo, trios, whatever, of amazing young musicians who are brilliant at what they do, whether it's fiddle, whether it's whistle, whether it's an accordion or something like that. They are at the top of their game at such a young age. And they're the ones going around or doing all the festivals and in and out of different bands.
It's not a genre.
And all doing very, very well. And as a full-time thing.
So they're proper full-time.
But they're really young, so it's almost like they've gone against what we just said. You know, they don't want to be in a band with electric guitars and drums and whatever. They're going to get into this folk scene, which is a bit more. And when I say folk, I mean a lot of it is quite upbeat. And quite there's a bit of a drive
Have you heard of a band
underneath
called Ferocious Dog?
Yeah.
So they're coming to the fire station in a couple of weeks' time, and I've never really heard of them. Then a friend of mine, he put me onto them. He says, "Oh, this band Ferocious Dog. They're kind of a Manchester punky, folky type. So it's slightly electronic, but definitely more on the sort of imagine like imagine a Pogues, but from Manchester.
Right.
That's how I describe them.
Yeah.
And he says this violin solo, and it was like it went on and on, but it was just like amazing. And it was like, so I put it on, and they've got like we just sort of touched on then, these guys are just youngish kind of lads, but they've got this kind of punk attitude, but with a folk.
They're young.
Vibe,
so when they're playing their fiddle, they're giving it some attitude.
So they've got the foot on the monitor.
Maybe because doing the instrument instead of just the electronics.
There's a few Scottish bands like that, where there's like 4 or 5 lads. We went to see what were they called? Paul McKenna band. They weren't quite as attitudey, but you could see they were young lads with their cool haircuts and everything. But they were doing, you know, the Boweran thing brilliantly, and the guy on the whistle was just incredible. But they're fantastic, but only young.
A lot of passion in it.
Which is good, because at least you know that sort of history of music isn't going to get lost, because there'll be so many sort of genres and styles of music, I imagine, over the years that have just kind of fallen by the wayside because it's not cool anymore, or nobody really into it anymore. And you kind of get that, we have got to create new stuff and keep moving forward. You can't keep moving back. But I think if you still pay homage to those guys, like what you do, because your stuff it's not what it's not what I'd class as. Probably Bri Bramble is a bit more traditionally, But the band that I saw you in, is it
the Valiant Knights.
Yeah. Now that's definitely
it's still my material, but because you've got a drummer and a bass player and a guy playing either fiddle or mandolin and me doing my tenor guitar stuff, it is a bit more sort of immediate. It's a bit more. I mean, we do some of the same songs with us, just the two of us.
Acoustic.
But it does sound a bit different because when we do it with the other guys, it's a bit more. There's a guy called. There's a band called Sam Kelly and Sam Kelly is a guy on his own. Yeah. He's one of these young fellas. And he's got a band called the Lost Boys. Yeah. And that's all these people I've been talking about. They're all in and out of different bands, so they're all top of their game guys. So they've got a brilliant guy on a cello, brilliant guy playing fiddle, brilliant guy playing different things. But they're a bit more sort of, and they have a brilliant drummer as well. He's more of a percussionist than a drummer. He's just brilliant. And they are very kind of, very sort of festival pleasers. So it's all and really driving stuff. And there's a few like that. There's another guy called Seth Lakeman who you might have heard of.
I've heard of him.
Very similar thing where he's just driving. And the festival, when you see all these videos of them either at the Minack Theatre, which has got us in Cornwall.
Down in Cornwall?
He does a lot there. He's got some great videos of him playing. The crowd's just going bonkers. And then the festival one, like Shrewsbury Festival from a few years ago, and his set is out there on YouTube if anyone wants to have a look at it. But it's just... The place has gone bonkers. There's got brilliant percussionists there. He's doing... And it's brilliant.
It's what people want,
and that's what switched me onto this. Going back to sort of, after the time I was in my bands and things. I had some time out. Didn't really do much for a while. And then I wanted to get back into something, but I didn't want to just play a 6-string guitar anyway, because everyone was doing it. I don't want to go to these open mics again and start again, but just play a 6-string guitar like everybody else. So I went to Promenade Music and... with a bass that I didn't need anymore because I wasn't playing it much. I was going to trade it in and get some sort of folky instrument, whether it would be a bouzouki. It was the first. Bouzouki was like, I'm going to get a bouzouki. I'm going to go down to Morecambe to get this bouzouki. And I went in there and I tried one out, and then I saw this sort of shorter scale version, which turned out to be a mandola, sort of big mandolin. And then this tenor guitar, and I thought, I'll have a look at that. And it was kind of tuned wrongly. It was supposed to be tuned G-D-A-E, like a mandolin. But it wasn't. I think the top string had been detuned by somebody just messing about with it, and it was down to D, so it was G-D-A-D. So a bit of a mistake. And I thought, that sounds really good.
You
and I
liked
thought,
what it did.
and then I got back home and looked. I bought it. And I bought the mandola at the same time. And I got them back
Classic
home.
Mike, go in for one instrument and come out with two. It came with it. I promise.
Played around with it for a while, and I thought, oh wow, I'm getting inspiration there because it's only got 4 strings. The tenor guitar, and it was tuned G-D-A-D. I was inspired by because I know my chord sounds. I've been doing them for years, so I know what an A minor sounds like. I know what whatever. I know what a major 7 sounds like. I know what all these sounds like. And so when I was playing these chords, I was finding things, and it was almost like the suggestion of a chord. It's like that's almost major, but it's kind of minor. It can be either. And I started to write lots of stuff, just coming up with stuff.
Because effectively you'll have had to have relearned the chords, because you've gone from like 6 strings to 4. So you've got 2 spare fingers.
I play a lot of 2-note chords or 3-note chords. But what you can do with that as well, there's the space in between the strings is more than a 6-string as well. So you've got room to play little melodies as well. In between. So you can do something and then stretch and do something nice little melody. And so I did all that kind of thing. It was all riffs and melodies, and that's what Seth Lakeland was doing. And I didn't really twig that he was doing that. I'd heard some of his stuff, and there was a few guys I wanted to look at. There was a guy called Steve Knightley. I know he plays. He's in a duo called Show of Hands. And he's been around for years, and he plays tenor guitars and that kind of thing. So I was listening to his stuff, and I thought, he's doing like stories of a minor or something somewhere, whatever, and then then down the rabbit hole thing of YouTube. It took me to people like Kate Rusby, who is a big sort of folky name of the last 25 years, 30 years, and then same rabbit hole. If you like this, you'll like this. So Seth Lakeman. I thought, oh, hang on, Seth Lakeman. Who's this guy? With the fiddle, tenor guitars, doing these songs. Similar things. They're doing songs of legends and stories and. That's the lifeboat that went down in 1981, or that's a song about some shipwreck off Cornwall or whatever. And I thought, this is really cool. This is what I need to do. And it was a bit of a mistake, but I'd already bought the instruments, wanting to do something different. And it was just one of those moments where it kind of all collided and came together. It's like, that's what I should be doing. And so. It was probably back in about 2016. Right. So not that long ago in sort of time terms, if you like. Yeah. And I suppose that from then on, I've just done that kind of stuff.
So where obviously you get your inspiration from where we live.
Yeah.
So was that a big thing for you anyway? History and that, or?
This is the thing. Probably back in about 1994, and I'm saying that very specifically, like, around 1994, January the 6th. No, 1994. I was still in one of these other bands. We were kind of trying to keep it together. Yeah. And I was saying, let's do some material. There was a band called, this is another story, but there was a band called Boat Thief that was in Kendal at the time, sort of early 90s, Boat Thief. And they were brilliant. Yeah. I talked about them at the gig.
Oh, that's why.
And they were like a folk rock band. Yeah. And that's probably why it was in the back of my head that I liked that kind of stuff. Yeah. Because they were kind of folk rocky at the time, but it was 1992 or something, so it was new. It was only the Pogues around, sort of thing. But they were getting somewhere. They had a manager. There was a tragedy though, where the manager died by reenacting how they got their name, Boat Thief. They'd stolen a boat, gone out in Windermere with a few beers, and the manager that they had was getting them places at that time. Something happened and they all fell out of the boat, whatever, because they had a big long coat on. It dragged him down, and they didn't recover after that. As a band, they sort of split up and went their own separate ways. Yeah. I nearly joined them as a bass player because the main guy, I knew him, Damien. He said he wanted to get the band back together, and he said Tim, the bass player, didn't want to play anymore. And I said, well, look, I'll have a go. So we had a couple of jams, I think. And then he eventually said, well, the other guy, I think it was called Pete, is going to Canada, so we're not going to do it anymore. That's it. So I would have been in there, in the band. But anyway, I liked them. I liked the songs. I liked all of that. Very similar to, I played some of it to you, haven't I, recently?
Yes, we've been listening.
Very similar to what I'm doing now, in a sense. And I wrote a song, the Boat Thief song, which is on one of the albums I've got, in tribute to them, sort of thing. I've gone off thing now, haven't I?
We were talking about the history and how you...
Yes, and the folklore, the local
around about that time, 1994, January the 6th, no. 11:20.
Not 11.
There was... we wanted to keep our band going, sort of thing, at the time that we had. And I said, I'd read this book, I think, this pamphlet about some tales in the lakes. Yeah. One of them was the King of Dunmail Race, right? And the story of this last king of Cumbria, and what happened to him and everything back in 945. Not quarter to 10, but the year 945. And and Neil, the guy who was the thing, he was like, I don't want to do local legendy stuff. That's rubbish. You can't do that. And I'd kind of written the basics of King of Dunmail Race at that time, and then shelved it. Yeah. And I think I wrote a couple of others as well. Anyway, when I was starting to, fast forward to 2016 when I got the tenor, and I was playing around with things, that was the first thing that hit my brain. It was like, where's that song about that king? So I rifled through all my papers, because I keep everything. I've got this box file with tons of papers, songs, so doing this. There, King of Dunmail Race, there we are. And then it was completely different key, completely different chords, and I thought, well, I'll just use the inspiration of what I'd written down.
Yeah.
As the verses and the choruses, and just play what I think might be quite good on the tenor.
Yeah.
You know, having learnt some of the chord shapes and sounds. And found my way around it. And that was the first thing that came out, which was.
And it hasn't changed. So that's exactly the same version I heard the other week.
King of Dunmail Raise.
Yeah.
Did I do it?
Yeah,
Did we do it? Yeah.
Because is that the one? That's not the one with the wolf, the last wolf, is it?
No, that's another one.
That's another
king, wasn't it?
That's
another king. Or
it was a squire. Yeah, it was like a squire.
So the Dunmail Raise one, is that the one with the daughter that when they have to marry?
That's the wolf. That's the wolf one.
Yes.
The King of Dunmail Raise is the one where their warriors are on the fell side, and they cast the crown into the warriors cast his crown into the Grisdale Tarn.
Oh no, I don't think. No, you didn't do that one.
Do I not do that one?
No.
So I don't. Sometimes I don't always do it. It's quite an epic thing.
Is it?
Yeah. It's got a really good. It's got a really epic sort of ending.
Your Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely
it definitely is.
Absolutely is. Yeah, it's one of those.
And can you do? Is it only done with a band or not? Or would it be an acoustic?
No, it's something. It's something I used to do on my own before I did the Valiant Nights.
Yeah.
I was going out and doing a bit on my own.
Yeah.
And it will stand up on its own because it's quite epic.
I say sometimes it's one of the ones that is best stripped down completely just the guitar and mic.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm now doing it with the Shruti, which we'll get to later.
Yes.
Which has got a droney kind of, and that just gives it all the atmosphere.
And that's what I've played, and I do play quite often.
Have you played that? No, I've seen you playing that.
You will have seen me playing that. I played it quite a bit with Bri Bramble because
that's how I sound.
An instrument that Mike just had tucked away, didn't really use because obviously. Although he can multitask a lot, he couldn't play the Shruti and the guitar, so he'd never thought about it.
Another one of those things
that we can have a
he does have
a bit better. It's like, well, we could do the Shruti with a foot.
It was one of those instruments where I just thought, I'll get one. I might use it sometime, and then bought it and then put it away, sort of thing. Yeah, and then when Kate came on board, I was like,
stick it in your hand. Do that.
Play that.
Do that. Yeah.
But it's brilliant.
But it does work really well with Dunmail, for example.
And some of the other songs, it just where it doesn't need a lot. Yeah. It just needs that. If so, for instance, I'm doing something that's perhaps to sort of transpose it to a mandolin part might be a bit more complicated. Yeah. Because there's more changes, more chord changes, or whatever in it. What I'll do is I'll say, just give me some atmosphere, and I'll play the complicated bits myself. Because otherwise it doesn't really work.
So it works well. So. Getting back to Dunmail Raise, would that then, so we fast forwarded to 2016, you're now kind of in the zone, you know that this is the sort of path you want to go down and follow. Did the history buffness then start, or what, or was it already, it was kind of
always there, because I like I say, back in the 90s I was starting to look at different things to write about.
Yeah.
And I was
prior to that, even so, go back to the 80s when you were at school and that, there was no interest in local legends sort of, did you learn much?
Probably not consciously.
No.
Yeah.
I think Mike's done a classic thing, like we discussed with each other that history is one of those things that, no disrespect to our teachers, some of them would have been fantastic, but you have that thing sometimes where as a child when you were at school and some things you associate with being, that was a boring subject, or that, and maybe some of the teachers were responsible for not being as good at it. But we've said how we appreciate it more now. We're a bit older, and we love it now, and we go out to places and we're fascinated by the history and want to know more, and we think there's some of the things that we should have had at school. And we weren't showing an interest in school.
The thing is, every twist and turn of the way when you go and look at something historic or visit somewhere, whatever, every twist and turn of the way, there's a song. There's a song there. There's a song there. There's a song there.
That's what I was just about to say to you. I bet you you're walking around and you're just being bombarded with
ideas,
the material.
And that's what I did, So that's what I kind of did 2016 when I sort of realised, that's it. I can do this now. I'm allowed to do it now. I haven't got someone saying, no, you can't do that. We're not doing that. That's rubbish. Now I'm sort of, I can do it now.
For yourself.
I'm going to do this. And so I started to pull out other things and look around and read things. and go online and
find stuff out.
Or people would say, people would say to me, "Oh, that was really good. I like that one about that king.
Yeah.
You want to write one about this?
Yeah.
Or about that?
Yeah.
Like
give you a thread
of
a story or a local legend.
the errant thieves guys.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, they early on they said to me, you should write the one about the castle, the Pendragon's castle. And I was like, what castle? What Pendragon's castle? Oh, the one at near Malastine, near Kirby Stephen, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or somewhere. Where Uther Pendragon built this castle.
Is that a lot of? Is that?
And it's somewhere you can visit. It's a ruin, yeah.
Is it?
And he, of course, Uther Pendragon was King Arthur's father.
Yeah.
And the story was with that one. when I looked it up, I was like, what are they on about? So I read the thing, and what it was, the idea, the story was that it was built right on the banks of the River Eden, and he wanted to redirect the River Eden to create a moat, but he couldn't do it, so he ended up with just having a dry moat. Yeah. And then the Saxons came to raid the castle, and they fended them off quite well, but the Saxons had poisoned the well, and so the Uther Pendragon's men died anyway by drinking the water and stuff. So they died, anyway. And I thought, this is brilliant. So there is a song on one of the. It's not on. Yes, it's on one of the. It's on that one. Is it? Two Kingdoms. Pendragon's Hill.
I mean,
so that was an example.
Yeah. And these kind of also, as well as folk, they kind of all these songs lend themselves to sort of rock and metal as well, don't they?
Yeah.
You know,
I think because my background is that, I can't let it go. So I can't go completely.
You can imagine Dio singing about that.
I can't completely go folky. I'm afraid I've got to have that.
You've got to have that
bit of pop,
edge.
a bit of indie, bit of rock in there, and that's why some of the songs are a bit like that.
But it is really good though. I mean, it's kind of like because it straight away, I picked up on the lyrics. It was like, this is like, because I love history and I love all that, and coming from away and loving the Lake District, and it was kind of like, now I'm actually living here. It's like a dream come true for me. Yeah. But then to learn all of this sort of folklore and all these great tales, and I know some of that you embellish, like the vampire songs that you did there, but that's
Bella
probably...
Sheephead.
The Bella Sheephead one.
Yeah. Because is that a?
It's probably slightly dramatised, yes.
Well,
everything's got
apparently a local legend.
Yeah, everything's got its roots somewhere, hasn't it?
It possibly was. Maybe it was that wolf before it was killed by the Earl. Yeah. It was stalking the fells.
Definitely a tale.
And blamed it on somebody who was a bit
It's
wandering.
It's definitely a tale that I read about. Bella Sheephead. Drinking the blood of the sheep and whatever, and the farm was telling each other to take their flocks off the field at night, and so because the sheep weren't there, she would turn to people instead, and then she grew this grotesque sheep's head, so she was called Bella Sheephead. But that, for me, that is like, there's a song there, I'm having this, and
it's brilliant, and it's kind of like, I suppose if you're into that sort of thing as well, you're kind of like, whoa, this is great. And then the sort of up-tempo, depending on which song it is.
I liked...
it's that, whoa, this is fantastic.
That was the mission, I think, at the very start, was to sort of try and emulate these people I'd been listening to. But do my own thing, my own song. So it might be on the surface, that's quite funny. And in fact, when I tell the tale of that before I do the song... the place is in roars of laughter because I think it's funny. And then I deliver this kind of darkish kind of song, but they love it. They always come afterwards and go, "Oh, it was brilliant. That one about the sheep thing, the sheephead thing was great." Or got one that's and it was a bit of a throwaway thing. This was the Black Bess song. But we did it at the Valiant Knights. Did it? You were there. And it was about Black Bess.
Dick Turpin's
having to jump this gorge near York to get away from the marshals that were chasing him. And we do, and I wanted that to be really upbeat because, like Kate said, or sometimes says, I'll be playing something and she says, "Oh, it reminds me of horses galloping," or something like that. And that was the same idea with that one, Black Bess. Where it is very it's very like that. And we got these actions to it. We get people doing these actions to it, and we always think they're never going to do this act. Like this audience isn't going to do this. but they always
sometimes
do.
like to join in.
Because when we say, right, you're going to do this.
Yeah.
Black bass, the hot ears, don't stall, and do that. Jump the gorge and save me from the gallows pole.
Yeah.
And we think, people aren't going to do this tonight. I can just tell.
You can tell.
But then they do.
It's mental. Just goes
that's not maybe so much heavy metal. But
that's a fun one that's
fun.
kind of upbeat, and it does have quite a cool kind of lick to it.
Yeah, it does.
It's kind of catchy, and I think people like that.
Really like it.
I'm sure you have it with all genres of music. And that it's really hard if you say that you're folk musicians.
Yes.
And people have certain images of folk musicians, and as Mike said, when it's kind of folk but a bit more rocky.
Yeah.
But people then kind of get even more confused. I don't know what you mean. Or they come expecting. Because I've had more influence when I was younger of some of the more traditional, I would say old school folk, and a bit country, Tom Paxton,
Vin Garber.
Vin Garber from the northeast. That you heard of him, but he was really funny, entertaining folk musician. But my parents and my uncles and aunties who did a little bit of music did some of that.
Right.
And then
was that just your classic, just a 6-string?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of folk that we've sometimes gone to some folk clubs or listened, and you get quite a bit of that. And some of them are they stick to that niche.
Yeah.
And it's very, you don't stray off that. And somebody doing something new or original and a bit more upbeat is kind of, that doesn't
you get an eyebrow raise.
And you can get that. And others are really open to, throw in a bit of bluegrass or throw in a bit of rock or do a bit more original
Depends
things.
on the
Others like hearing those old covers.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard to say folk music and
it's difficult to pigeonhole.
You can't really call it something else.
A lot of people, quite a few comments where it's the same comment and they'll say, I didn't know I liked folk until I listened to what you did tonight.
Which
and
is
I've
great
had that
for you,
a few times.
That must be awesome for you.
And that's great because
it's like your idea.
That's exactly the position I was in 2016 when I thought probably won't like folk, but I want to play these instruments. And then listening to things like Seth Lakeman and thinking, a few years ago I wouldn't have liked this, but I didn't think I would like it, but I love it.
It's great, isn't it?
And that's great.
So do you think you'll, as time goes on, do you think you'll evolve and you'll probably put more contemporary stories to music, like, I don't know, foot mouth disease or...
Like a modern day, you mean?
Because, in 100 years, those will be the stories.
Well, I think that's what's starting to evolve with what we've started to say we're going to do in going into the next year.
I think I've started to do that on this new one, actually. Yes, because, for instance...
Well, this, I suppose, as well.
Yeah. So, for instance, a perfect example, that one. So, I've got one on here, and this is our new EP, of course.
So, look,
let's stick it up there. So, my EP is Bri and Bramble.
Yeah.
And the other ones are... the first one, that one there is...
that's just you.
That is... Well, that's me and the Safe Kings, which was a trio I had. A double bass player and a cajon player.
Yeah.
But it was the same kind of idea material-wise.
And then that one
This one is the
Valiant Knights.
This is Two Kingdoms, so it's kind of it's heading more towards Valiant Knights.
Yeah. That's the name. The name's great, isn't it? Two Kingdoms. It's like, it just
that's the reason.
It creates an image in your mind.
Yes.
Well, exactly, and that's what the idea was for that one, because there's some brilliant ones, upbeat ones that are more, like I say, going towards the Valiant Knight thing, trying to get in the drum, and different bass players to play on here, and
so you got that sort of classic rock combo.
It's a bit more like that, but with the stories.
I would say some of those stories that suit that as well.
Yeah, me playing tenor guitar and embellishing it with a bit of banjo and things like that, and mandolin.
Yeah.
But going back to this one, I mean, they're all modernish. I mean, I tend to try and choose songs that other people wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
So there's one about... So on this... Well, let's go back. Let's have a quick look.
To the beginning.
So, for instance, right, so this one, this is called Courageous Tree. Yeah. And the first track on there, no one's ever written about this one before. There's a tree on the banks of Coniston.
Yeah.
It's a big ash tree. And on one side, it looks perfect. You go around the back of it. It's black and it's burnt and it's gnarled and it's been struck by lightning 50 odd years ago, but it still comes into full leaf every year on the other side.
Of it. So
people walk past and see that it's surviving, if you like, and it's a beacon of hope and strength kind of thing. And I thought, and I read that somewhere, I don't know where, I can't remember now. I thought, right, that's the kind of thing I want to take, because no one's done that before, so I'm going to take it. I've got one here called Ernie's Liquid Gold, and what it was, I was in Asda, and I was trying to get a bottle of whiskey for my dad at the time. I was looking at whiskey, and this guy came up. I didn't ask him to. He came and he started to talk to me about all the whiskies. And he wasn't a staff member. No. He was just his guy.
We saw you were struggling with your decision, and he decided.
Like this, and he picked up this one in a big blue box, big square blue box, and it was Shackleton's whiskey.
Right.
And he said, "Oh, this one." And he told me about this. And he said, "This is a bit of a funny one, because this one is actually a blend recreated from McKinley's whiskey from back in the day, years and years ago. Now it's White and Mackay, and they've done this Shackleton's whiskey."
Ironic,
and
White and Mackay glass.
And I went back home and I googled it, and I realised there was a story behind this, and it was where Shackleton was given a
Explorer.
A few crates of whiskey. By McKinley's at the time. To take to on his 1907 voyage. Which only he came back after 18 months, because they couldn't get very far, so they came back. But they left some of the stuff in the huts on Antarctic. And about 100 years later, a team from New Zealand.
Again,
we were talking about. We just looked at some of the songs and the influences and the
and then you were going about. We just talked about the wolf story.
Yes.
So now we'll start.
Then we're on to the next.
And you were on about.
Saying about the more modern.
I was on the modern ones. I mean, we can skip this one because this is the Two Kingdoms. So similar idea with what I've said about those songs there on here, and again going more towards more upbeat. And then I'm still doing the Valiant Knights, but more live, because we don't often get together much, because the drummer lives in Cockermouth.
Right.
One lives in Appleby.
Oh, right.
The other lives in Kendal.
Yeah.
So we don't always get together, and we don't play a great deal. But when we do, we can just do it. They're great. They're great musicians themselves.
Yeah.
So.
Quick recap, or
just a quick recap.
One rehearsal before a weekend of doing stuff.
And we can do
it.
We're back to it.
Back to it.
So, so in the meantime, Kate and I had got together, and I thought, it'd be nice to do something where I can rehearse with just somebody who's right with me all the time, rather than having to get together with the other guys. When I write the stuff, and it can be quite a lonely thing, and you hanker to get together with the guys to say, right, I've got this one, it's about a corpse on a horse, it goes like this, But with Kate around, I was like, that's what I went on. We joked and said, here's a mandolin here, grab that, play these chords,
Which way up does it go?
So you've never played an instrument before?
No, I had played violin, probably atrociously, but from when I was, say, 7 to 11, a little bit in the years of secondary. Stopped when we had to go to orchestra, and we'd moved house, and suddenly the orchestra that I would have to go to, that my violin teacher was like, you should be in an orchestra as well now, and was then in Northallerton, and I went to school in Middlesbrough at the time. And I was suddenly having to, and I didn't like that. I was quite shy then. I hated to suddenly be immersed with all, and the orchestra part was then with a lot of other, my peers were all at school together.
Right. So
and
you
I felt really nice. And I at the time, as it happens at secondary, often I had other things that I was starting to do.
Other interests.
And as I got a bit older, still it was more rock climbing, a bit of sailing and that kind of thing. And I didn't put as much into the instruments. And then when I met Mike, some of that, and that's why he picked mandolin for me though as well, was you might have some of that memory of violin might come back,
tuned
and it's similar
way.
tuning.
Is it?
Yeah, it's tuned exactly the same way. So I said that might be more familiar in terms of
the sound.
Mandolin, it's all the basic chords, the two finger chords.
Are they?
So
No way.
So you only have to do much. So it's just the positions. And so I thought you might take to it better
starting points for me.
Because of the tune.
So I'd imagine as well, because when you're with somebody, because I've always found when you're practicing with another person, it's just better, isn't it? When you're practicing at home, when you just and you've got headphones on and you're just jamming along to something.
Yes.
It's not the same, is it,
quite
as
the
when
same,
you're
no.
in the room
No.
jamming with another person, or you
Yeah.
two at home practicing together.
Yeah.
It is. It would have been
When
better for
I
you.
first started, and then I say we were living in separate houses then, and then moved in together. But prior to that, and Mike was really busy with lots of music projects, and he would sometimes say, "Oh well, you've got that now, or just practice that on your own." Trying to practice some on my own, I was like, or even if I put something Mike's recorded already on, try and play along with it. It was never as good as practicing together in person. And we can really hear it live, I suppose.
We can just decide
and again, that's
when
the thing
to.
about live music.
We can just decide when to do it.
Yes.
We can just.
Now we've got more time and we're together more to do it. It's much better to do it practice together.
And I'd written a bunch. It's weird because I'd written a bunch of new songs for Valiant Nights, really, but only played a few of them live, and some of them not at all. But then with Kate coming on board and doing stuff with me, I wrote a completely separate batch of stuff that I thought, I'll do these for us, and keep the Valiant Night ones back. So those ones aren't recorded yet, but we do some of them live, But these ones were the new ones that I wrote kind of with Kate around. That we decided to do these 5. And going back to the original thing about
your question of modern,
the modern thing, there's a perfect one on here. It's called the Flashing Lane. The Flashing Lane is
on the motorway.
The Flashing Lane is
doesn't sound as bad as it could be interpreted.
Have
you heard of Appleby Horse Fair?
Appleby Horse Fair. Well, when they have the sort of
the showcase the horses,
the two-wheel,
the carriages, the wash the shit horses.
Is it the trotting one?
Yeah, the trotting one.
Yes.
Where they go flying down.
That
That's
one lane,
called the Flashing Lane. Yeah.
We particularly have this time and place where they really fly
really
the horses
down
to show off the horses and the carriages.
That
and
was
sell
one
them,
where
I suppose.
I'd done this riff, and I was just doing this thing, and that was when you said, "Oh, it sounds like horses or something." And you said, "Why don't you write one about Appleby Horse Fair? That's nearby, isn't it?" And I thought, "Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's on So we looked up. Stuff about
we've never been, and we know we'd love to go actually, and we said we should go to Appleby Horse Fair. So we knew little bits about it, but again we looked more into the traditions and some of the really good things that happen there that are really part again
and
of
a
culture and
it's kind of sadly
tradition
again. It's another one.
So it touches on tradition of it, touches on what happens today, and also there's a reference to a hobby horse, which is a bit weird, but what it is in one of the local news papers, they were doing the washing of the horses, which they call it something, don't they?
Well, it's almost again part of the ritual
whole
thing there is to take them to the
sands.
It's
called the sands.
And wash the horses
with their hands.
By the bridge.
And this photographer had taken this picture of this young girl with a hobby horse
doing
doing the same thing. And of course there's a line in it that says, "I'll be no hobby horse, you will understand," kind of thing. And so it was nice to put that in. And so that's sort of Flashing Lane. And then I looked up a few others at the same time, a few other sort of local stories that I probably wouldn't have maybe not done with the other guys. And that's what these are.
And they're all... Yeah. So do you think... Because there was a guy I saw at Plug and Play Again.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name for the life of me. But he was a local lad, and I think he was from Kendley way. I'm pretty sure he was. Mm-hmm. Plays banjo and guitar, just a one-man band. You're bound to have come across him. He does similar-ish stuff to you, but it doesn't go quite as far back. I'd say some of his stuff maybe goes back to 17th, 18th century. There's one song about a girl who, she was in a workhouse or something, and she got, she called something Jenny or something, and she basically escaped from the workhouse and went walking across the fells back to a farmhouse or something in sort of the 18th century.
Right.
But then cut a very long story short, he'd done a few really contemporary sort of folk songs. So we'd done one song about when there was that fatal train crash down at T-Bay. You know, when the workman was.
I know who that is.
And it's you know the
he
heart.
Is it Steve
it's called
Steve
Heart.
Steve Water.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. So he kind of brings it right into the sort of present time now, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So do you think you'll ever go down that route, or
what more current? Like that disaster.
Well, Amako Cadiz, I suppose, is more recent.
I've got a few in my. I have a book.
Pipeline.
I have a book, a Bible, which have got
some
songs in it that are
books.
either songs that written that I haven't bothered to do live, or have a tick next to it. Would like to record sometime next, or whatever. And one of them is Amako Cadiz.
Right.
The Amako Cadiz is when we were kids. It was on the news
spill
every night,
day,
wasn't it?
Yeah,
1978, whatever it was. This oil tanker off the south coast, decimating all the bird life, and they were washing all the birds, weren't they? With washing up liquid and that kind of thing. Well, I've written a song about that, but I've kind of thought exactly what the antithesis of what you're saying now is like, you can do something modern, do something new, something current kind of history.
Yeah.
And I thought when I'd written it, I was like, no, I don't want to do that one because it's about the oil tanker and it wasn't that long ago and whatever. But when I think about it, I'm stupid because some of Seth Lakeman's songs, some will go way back, and some are new. So he's got one called Solomon Brown, and that's about a lifeboat disaster in 1981.
Right.
So I kind of now talking to you now, I'm thinking, well, maybe we should do Amako Cadiz because
the guys that wrote the songs that you are kind of emulating or maybe doing covers of, they will have been current news topics
at their
time, weren't they?
Yes.
And all that, because obviously that was their version of the internet, I suppose, back then, wasn't it? There was no newspapers, people were probably illiterate, so there was no way of reading about things, so they put things to song, didn't they? And,
that's
and
right.
it became the thing. So.
Well, funny enough,
and I think we both love that. We love that there's an element of some stories and music. It has only been passed on like that until a certain point where it's then written down.
Yes, yeah.
And we love that some things might have been literally passed on by hearing it in families and then those social groups. But I suppose, the modern thing, I think you might sometimes, and we again, it's the thing of what we're allowed to say sometimes.
True.
And if it's current news or it's somebody who it might be affecting people personally, that scared you off a little bit sometimes, maybe, hasn't it?
But it was because,
which public news are we allowed to sing about?
Sort of sing about,
and I do have a direct example of that.
Right.
On this Two Kingdoms album, there's a song called Harvest Lost.
Oh, yes.
Right.
And Harvest Lost is about the Solway harvester that went off the West Coast Solway, West Coast. It went down with all hands. It was a scallop dredger going out of Dumfries and Galloway area and operating around the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
And that went down. And I'd been going up there on holiday for a while and seeing this plaque.
Yeah.
And then about the fourth or fifth time I'd been there, I looked at this plaque and was like, there's a song right in front of me.
Yeah.
So I went back and wrote the song Harvest Lost, and about the seven crew, and put it on the album and everything. Put something out. It was one of the best ones on the album. I thought, I love that one. It's my Solomon Brown. It's my.
And it was a tribute.
Yeah.
It was an absolute tribute.
And it was
completely done in good faith.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the I'd put it out on YouTube, I think, just when you can just put this. And one of the families must have got on my profile and messaged me, and completely said, "How dare you do this? You should have got permission."
You're kidding.
And made me feel like I wanted the ground to swallow me up, And I was like, oh my god, and
totally not anything wild.
And so I apologised straight away, and so I was like, I was really scared. I was like, oh my god, I did this in good faith. I'm so really sorry. And they weren't even taking my apology. I was thinking, oh my god, they're going to do a cease and desist order or something that I can't do. And I thought, oh my god, what have I done? So, and then another family got in touch and said, where can I buy your album? That song was brilliant. And I thought, oh. So I messaged them back and said, look, I've got to tell you that this is fantastic, thank you very much, but this other family has said, and I'm really scared about it. And they said, oh, don't worry about that family. You know, we respect them and everything. And they're just one of the other families.
Yeah.
But they've carried it with them, and it's their
sort of
their thing. They've and that's fine.
Yeah.
And they'd objected to the plaque. And
they'd objected to the plaque.
Right.
But he said, what I can do is all the other families have seen this and heard it, and have asked the same thing. Where can we get it? It's brilliant.
Oh, that's awesome.
And but so the example of that, what Kate was saying. What can you say? What can you write about? Did scare me off a bit. Yeah.
Well, that's what happened with, what was his name again? Danny.
Steve Walton.
Steve Walton.
Yes.
Yeah, because he was saying that he'd done this song about I think it was called The Tragedy Under the Heartwood, because it's the Heartwood, isn't it?
Yes, the train had run a thing had run away, hadn't it? And they couldn't hear it. They were working on the track.
And I think there was 2, 3 or 4 guys that
got killed,
weren't they? Yeah. So, similar sort of thing. I don't know whether he put it out and a family member heard it, or he approached the family. I'm not quite sure.
I can't remember what he said about it, but I think there was.
We'd had a conversation with him about
really
it.
good vibe, you know, same sort of thing.
Yeah,
They thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
A nice kind of, in the way that it, you know,
it was intended.
Yeah, that's right. I think
you know, you're, as
it.
a songwriter, as a creative person, you're not out to cause harm. And,
exactly.
You know, you're there
to get that message.
To get the message out. And, it must have been
makes you feel like, what have I done?
Yeah.
So I think, as Tim suggested, something like the foot and mouth disease, when that affected so many people and it was national news story, and it could be something that you could easily write a story, a song about. But equally, I could see how, you know, you could be billions of people who are delighted with it, happy with it, see that, and it could get one person who
things with that
takes
one,
offence
I don't
because
think
it's directly affected them and they interpret it a different way.
With that one, it might be safer because it doesn't involve something
you wouldn't be
personally.
About
it's about what happened,
the general
the situation.
Because people have written songs about COVID, haven't they, since it's happened?
Course,
you know, and that was a wide world pandemic.
The Grenfell Tower thing. There's a fiddle player that played on not one of these albums, but another one I did. Called Kieran Algar, brilliant fiddle player. He's one of these young prodigies. He did his own stuff as well as playing fiddle for everybody. And he did one of his songs is about that when that happened. And I'm guessing he didn't get any backlash from anybody. Maybe he did.
Maybe he did get permission from them, but to have all of those families agree must have been quite a task, you know, because somebody would.
But I mean, to be fair as well, though,
if it's public news,
there's always going to be somebody, isn't there? That is going to object or find offence. I don't know, it seems even worse nowadays, but I wonder, it must have been like that
years ago
back
as
in
well.
the day. It's got to have been, it's not just a sudden. I think it's become more of a thing because of the internet, because the world's a smaller place now than it was, isn't it? So, you know, obviously when they were writing these songs 200 years ago, it was only in that local sort of community, wasn't it? And then it would have, you know, I don't know.
And I think with this family with the Harvest Lost thing, they must have been quite shocked to all of a sudden see something like, oh, that's resurfaced. We want to forget this, you know. And a lot of my friends said to me, look, don't react to it because they've got to own their own grief. They can't own the disaster. You know, they can't own the fact that it happened. So it's maritime history. But they have to own their own grief and sort that out and deal with it. But you shouldn't have to take that on board. I respect them, and absolutely. But I did get annoyed about it afterwards, thinking, well, hang on, I shouldn't have just immediately have gone, oh, I'm sorry. I should have been more, well, actually, no, this is maritime history. I do respect you, but this is a song of mine. I'm doing it respectfully, and I still wish to perform it. And I haven't. I've never performed. I've performed it once, I think, at one gig.
But is it? It's because we've been talking about this, and I've been thinking. Then it's like it seems like everyone seems to write a song about a tragedy or a. You know,
again, it might be genre. We've had this discussion as well. A lot of really, again, going back to the really traditional folk stories. A lot of folk is. Oh, this a tragedy.
You listen to some really old, like authentic bluegrass stuff. It's the most sort of
really depressing.
Really depressing with this sort of upbeat sort of.
Yes.
You listen to the lyrics.
And
it's like, oh my God.
I think I do when we're doing our gigs. I think we did one in near Thirsk on Saturday.
Yes.
And you kind of after every song, it's about some sort of tragedy or whatever, and you end up saying, "I'm sorry about these guys." Every song's like about some someone killing something or whatever, and it's but that kind of brings a bit of humour into it. And coming on to humour, we listened to a guy, one of Kate's influences, I guess you could say, when she was growing up, a guy called Vin Garbutt.
Right.
He used to was a Teesside. He's not with us now, but he was a Teesside performer, and he would take a story of something and do a folky kind of really folk song, but with catchy choruses to get everyone singing along. Yeah. But he would make it funny. But there was a shipwreck where it was lots of
a container spilled off the coast and landed on the beaches all along the coastline. Then between Skinning Grove and Middlesbrough Redcar it suddenly became littered with all his designer gear.
No way.
T-shirts, sweatshirts, stuff like that.
So it was like your version of Whiskey Galore. But
it was
Whiskey Galore.
That's what he said.
Everyone was going down to the beach with bin liners, getting all these T-shirts,
torches, and
he wrote a song about that, which is absolutely hilarious if you look it up.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It was Vin Garbutt, and
what's the chorus line? T-shirts. There's T-shirts for the husbands.
Sweatshirts for the wives.
All
the kids in Skinning Grove have underwear for life.
Brilliant.
Said,
and I tend to sort of put an odd funny one in, somewhere, and I guess it kind of works because it does break up the.
But I suppose your style of that storytelling, and then you sort of just morph into the song. That kind of It's not like, and the next one is about. Blah, 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 and you go for it. It's like there's a nice.
I like to say what it's about, and we're always under time constraint because when you do something like the plug and play, if you're not headlining, you've got 3 songs. You've got 3 songs.
And then
I've got to quickly. I like to quickly say the story.
Yeah.
But Tommy's brilliant. He'll let me do it.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else just says, "Oh, this is on about whatever," and just straight into it.
But that was another thing that piques my interest with you.
I do like to tell the tale.
It was that, it's something different. So you go there and you're expecting the usual guitars and I love it for what
music,
but you kind of know what you're going to get, and then you came on stage you're like, whoa.
Well, the key to it is knowing the kind of story of it and having that passion, and kind of making it funny as you tell it, sort of thing. Make it a bit light.
It's like you just said. Then it's that passion. It was the passion that you gave across, and that authenticity of you enjoying what you were doing, and that it's just with
the Bella Sheephead one, for instance, it's great because you tell that story. They're all laughing at various points of the story. Yeah. And then you can't help say something like, "It's true. It's a true story." What are you laughing at? And that makes them laugh even more. So it becomes a storytelling thing. Yeah. And this leads us into what we're doing now, because our next project is bringing more storytelling into it. So Kate's really keen on doing a full story, which we did the other night. You did 2 stories in between the set in the songs. And we thought, hang on a minute, we can.
So you actually did do kind of a little bit of background music, as I did.
Oh yeah,
but to do it as a performance storytelling of a folk legend or a myth or a.
What we're doing is we're expanding on what I do already. So I do that already.
Yeah.
And then we've been to a few storytelling nights that Kate was eager to go to. So we went. Well, you went to one, and I went with you to the next one. And I straight away said, "Oh, it's brilliant!" And they just literally did stories all night.
Just being entertained, but in a different.
But they would do it kind of animated, be funny. Sometimes they'd bring, if it was about a legend about some Viking wearing some cloak and some jewellery, they would do something like, and she looks really cool, and they'd bring that kind of modern kind of
twist to it,
into it, and you kind of were totally engaged all night with it. And we came away from that saying, "Do you know what? We kind of do that already. Let's put the 2 things together and create a show."
Because we seem to be getting these vibes a lot, that people like the stories behind some of the songs. So we said, let's do a bit more of that, embellish the stories more, and let's do some more that are. We could still have the music there, but focus on the actual story as well.
So we do some. I do a little mini story of the song, and then do the song.
Yeah.
and then sort of halfway through the first set, for instance, I'll step back.
Yeah.
And Kate will come on and do a full story. For 10 minutes, and then we jump back into the music again, and we just.
So have you memorised the story, or are you reading it off notes?
No, I've got because again that would be something I think definitely not got to do that. I've got to actually tell it.
Tell it,
and not be using notes, not be reading it.
So is everyone
tell it
slightly different? Or
it probably will be. Yes.
So you've got the main gist of the story.
Yes.
It's kind of that's very new at the minute. So she's got about 3 or 4 maybe that she can try.
And more that I've already put in my head, and I might have kind of retold it.
But now she's just researching all the time, reading these stories. Thinking, oh, that would be good. That would be good. This one's about a golden blackbird, whatever.
But to talk up in front of people for 10 minutes, that's a lot.
I've been more comfortable maybe with children than adults, as in, because I used to teach a bit. With kids, you can be a bit daft, and they don't judge you in the same way that adults would. And I kind of maybe that's been a safer zone for Kate. And I used to do forest schools a bit, so some of the teaching like that came into it. And then I think
so. You kind of used to that.
To do that, I was like, I can just be in that mode. And it might seem more scary at first with adults. I thought, actually, and maybe it is the circles I'm in now. But then it's like, actually, adults are ready for that as well. And
do you find you have like an alter ego then that comes on stage?
Probably. Yes.
Well,
I
definitely have that.
Yes.
I think that's the same with a lot of artists, though, isn't it? There's would you say you were quiet and sort of unassuming in normal life, and then as soon as you get on stage,
both are really.
You're not always out there trying to be the centre of attention.
Not at all. We're really.
But then when you're on stage, though, you're a force to be reckoned with. But the area. So.
You kind of, you do. You kind of. It's that feel the fear and do it anyway thing where you get and do it, and then you want to do it more, and then you want to do it again.
Because it is. I mean, in the short experience I had of being in a band. But when you've people are clapping and cheering and dancing to your music, it's the best drug in the world, isn't it? There isn't anything, and you can kind of understand why a lot of these musicians go down the path and go down the drink and drugs, because they've gone from that. You imagine standing in front of Wembley with like 80 or 100,000 people singing a song that you created,
back to you,
and then so you imagine that euphoric hit of must have been immense, and then you come back down and then
you're not doing it anymore.
What now?
How do I lift myself?
I'll try drugs, and nothing works. Nothing ever hits that same.
It's a natural euphoria, isn't it?
My theory on the ones that survive, if you like, is that it's part of them anyway. So when they're not doing it, they're still happy. They're still doing that. Still thinking of. They're still. It's not that it's one hit thing. So where they're like, in front of all those. I don't ever come away thinking. I always think, right, when's the next one? And what can we do? Which songs? What was going to be in the set list? What worked? What didn't work? I think I'll extend that story. I won't do that one as much. I'm like that all the time. So. Because it's kind of a passion thing. I love it. And
do you tend to read a crowd as much as you can? Because, like you've said earlier, when you've gone about with the black breasts, So, and you always assume that the audience aren't going to join in, but they usually do. So it shows you should never really judge a book, doesn't it? But at the same point, you can kind of. You do get a bit of a vibe sometimes, don't you, of the audience?
You do, but I think you've actually started to be more confident about that, because with me, that's probably because I am the dafter of the pair of us. So, and maybe I haven't worried as much about people doing that now as you do.
I think.
And it's that classic thing where sometimes if. My dad'd be a good example. Right? He used to be, particularly when he would be one of those that if he was at the pantomime, it would be guaranteed to be picked on, and would hate to be picked on. But certain people, you kind of get the vibe for, like my friend Julie was actually at the gig the other night, and we knew straight away that if we needed to, and there's what would you call it, like a scapegoat in the audience.
She was the
target, which seems a bit mean, but sometimes I think you can see that in an audience. You engage, this person will be up for a bit of banter.
Yes, even if you don't know them.
And that's good to get somebody who'll banter back with you.
And you can, and I've done it before where I've pointed, where I've said, about the actions or whatever. And I've said,
yes, please.
And I've said to somebody, the lady over there in a scarf, you're up for it. I can tell, And of course, all their friends are with them. Are going, and then they do it. They're totally animated. So sometimes you can be cheeky and do that, because you've seen them laughing or kind of engaging with you slightly. So you go, right, okay, I'm going to pick on you.
Yeah, and as well because most of your gigs, I'm guessing, you're in the audience going on stage yourself.
Quite often.
Sometimes. Yeah.
You're not always backstage in a green room waiting for your big intro and
quite
out the blue Smarties. I think I can put them in my dish.
Quite often it's somewhere where we're playing with other groups, people or artists, whatever.
So you're usually. It's almost like a plug and play sort of environment in a lot of places.
Quite a lot of them are.
So you're kind of in the mix. So then you're probably not consciously, but maybe subconsciously, you've sussed out the people that are having a bit of a laugh that would be up for a bit of banter to and fro.
Or if you've seen people really getting into something.
I'm
going to be all right because they like this.
Although moving on to say doing more of the storytelling and the song more as hopefully a standalone thing more. Then we possibly will have more of just our own audience where we're just delivering to them.
Yeah.
And then I think we will have to kind of gauge some of it. As we progress through one or two songs or one or two stories, and then realise this audience are up for this or not. But we'll be surprised how many.
So will you keep it in the Bri Bramble
umbrella?
It'll be Bri Bramble.
So sometimes you might get
songs and storytelling.
On the vibe you get. Might be more music one night, and then another night you see, depending on the audience, you might get a load more.
Well, we might do a themed night where it's so we've pulled out sort of songs that fit that, history that fits that, legends that fit that, and then deliver them in song and story.
So, for instance, we've got one that we've taken the plunge and booked a place called Brigsteer Hall near Village Hall, which is Brigsteer near Kendal.
Yeah.
And the reason we chose that was because we've been to a couple of storytelling nights there, so we know that an audience are happy to go to a storytelling night. So we've booked it for ourselves. We've to deliver a storytelling and song night. 1st November.
1st November.
1st November at Brigsteer. And we're going to do it. It's just the day after Halloween, so we are going to do a sort of dark tales sort of dark tales superstition thing. So we've kind of gone through and which songs of mine have I already got that we can, and which ones are in my book. I've got ticks next to them that I want to do, and we'll bring them out.
That'd be excellent.
So we're going to do that, and then Kate's choosing some stories to put in the midst.
Ghost stories or superstition, and then
to create
that whole atmosphere.
this atmospheric show of songs plus stories.
And I'd imagine, do you get to choose? Because you're taking your own PA system, aren't you, or not? Or have they got one for you? Or do you need one?
We've kind of got some equipment to take with us.
So what about the lights? Because I mean, just some candles and that.
We've got lots of little candles, and the tea light, the ones that are with battery.
Because
got loads of those.
We would love to do real candles, but then we've got the fire, health and safety risks and paperwork like that. Just battery operated.
The other night we had this hall in Sowerby near Thirsk. And it was bigger than we thought it was, this hall. So we didn't use the stage. We stood down on the floor and put the chairs a bit nearer to us. And we just put lots of these little candles and a string of those LED lights and things like that in the shape of stars. And it kind of wasn't light enough, so we went back to your mum's house and can we have some lamps? So we borrowed a few lamps, and it looked really cool because we had a cool, and it added the atmosphere.
Almost like a lounge type.
And it was really good. And I said, right, when we go to Brigsteer, we'll take lamps with us and make it really cool and a bit spooky.
But not that good house, like you probably wouldn't have thought of that idea. But
no, I wasn't sure what we were going to do.
I know.
Now we know, right? On our shopping list is get some lamps for the gigs. And
that can happen when you go to different venues, unless you've been there before, or even if you've been there before. When you go as a performer to suddenly do it, you must have had this for a while, like where you sometimes go, and you don't always get the chance to have visited it beforehand, or you might have visited it once, and you've got to try and think of all those decisions of what lighting do we need, what lighting does it already have,
what gear do I need to take,
and sometimes some of their own lighting or sound system you might have access to. Sometimes that might be an extra cost. So we're weighing all that up as we go.
And the acoustics, I'm guessing,
and acoustics can be really different.
Because most venues you're playing in aren't specific music venues, are they?
Not always. That was just a village hall. It was a big one. It was an old one, so it was kind of like a domed, like a curved sort of ceiling, high, very high. So the echo was like echo. It was really bad. Echoey. So but it's plug and play, for instance. That's very dead because it's a dead space, isn't it? Even in the theatre, it's not echoey at all. So it varies. Yeah, you're right. It varies. It depends where you are. I think a lot of music.
Because you get much of a chance to do a bit of a sound check or not, or
usually, yeah.
So you've usually got there sort of late afternoon.
If we can,
But it is literally often then there and then, just an hour before the performance or something. So you've got to then tweak what you can to suit to suit the venue.
I mean, sometimes it's luxury if you go somewhere and they've got their own sound thing, and it's just there's your DI on the stage. Just plug into that one for your guitar. Plug in, and then somebody else does it. That's great. And then you can just use your monitors.
Have you done many festivals or little? Because there's quite a lot in Cumbria.
We haven't as a duo, but I have.
Yeah.
Either on my own or with a trio or whatever.
Because there is quite a lot in Cumbria. There's quite a lot down South Lakes, isn't there? There's sort of smaller ones. There's one here called something Farm.
Oh, the
Home Farm, is it, or something?
The one we did last year.
Did you do it?
Called?
So I think Phil did it with
not Longacre Barn. No. Longacre Barn do Nout Daft.
Nout Daft.
Was it that one?
They do one called Nout
Daft. We did that last year.
Is that?
But that was a small.
Just a small. A couple of hundred people tops.
The bar.
Yeah. And then I've done Solfest, but on a smaller, not the big stage, but a smaller stage. Yeah. But again, I was just somebody's PA. We just plugged into it. They're always quite good to do that. It's nice when you do something. Somebody else is doing the sound. Yeah. Ken will do a few sort of more not for my kind of our material really. More sort of around the South Lakes area. There's a lot of cover bands.
Is there?
There are one or two others that do their own stuff. But a lot of cover bands. And so if there's a festival on in around that's called the Kendal Music Festival or whatever, or Kendal Rocks or whatever, it might be different pubs or venues or whatever. But they do tend to be all the same kind of like cover bands. So it might seem like there's quite a bit going on down there, but it's not very original music. That's more this way that like original stuff, or towards Keswick or further down towards North Yorkshire, like original music, or folky kind of tinged music or bluegrass, whatever.
I bet you didn't know there was a black metal festival in Windermere, did you?
No, is there?
Yeah, it's called Darkness Over Cumbria, and it's been going for about, I think 3 or 4 years, could be longer.
Where do they do that?
It's
on the outside.
I think it's Low Wood.
Oh, Low Wood.
I think it's at Low Wood.
At the hotel.
I'm pretty sure.
Or
I'll send you the details over. But it's a proper, and they get black metal artists from all over the world. Right. It's a 3-day event. It used to be two times a year. Right. So it was sort of now-ish, and then there was one in October time. And I think they've stopped the autumn one because the weather was always naff.
Right.
So now it's kind of like, it's not massive.
They used to do a blues festival on near the lake, I think.
Did they?
And like an outdoor one.
Because there used to be a big blues festival in well, obviously Maryport Blues Festival was big, wasn't it? And then there was always a big one at Carlisle.
Yeah.
Because there was a guy in Penrith that used to organise them, and he used to put a few bands on at Penrith's rugby club.
Right.
And it's not a massive venue, but it's all right. But I can't think the name of the guy, but he was in Whitesnake for when they were in that growing up time. And he was the guitarist in that. And I think he'd gone down a bluesy route. But he was selling himself as the lead guitarist out of Whitesnake. I can't remember his name. But yeah, so I tend to go to. Carlisle's got a good sort of music scene. Yeah. But again, it's more. There's a lot of cover acts that you go and see, and it's a shame because you go and see a cover act, and it's.
There's a few originals.
There's quite a lot.
I think is it the Source?
Yes, the Source is really good. They put a lot of original stuff. I think
they like to have more original stuff, don't they?
Yeah. So I go to the Brickyard. It's a bit more commercial.
Well, that's a venue on the circuit, if you like, isn't it? It's like
definitely
designated.
But it's a shame because you'll go and see a tribute act of a particular band, and it'll probably sell out. And it's usually on a Friday or Saturday night, which is fair dues. But then you'll get a really good original artist, and it'll be on like a Thursday night or sometimes on a Saturday night. Yeah. And it's a similar style of music to the cover band, but there's only half the amount of people in the audience, and it's just such a shame because you know that there's people out there that love the music, but they're just not turning up because it's not a known.
They don't know it.
Yeah, which is such a shame because music then. Because you know yourself, and you guys, you give you all whether there's 2 people in the audience or 200 in the audience, don't you?
Yeah.
And it is difficult. Like I felt so bad for him. It was like we went to see this guy. He'd come over from Memphis. He was doing a tour of the UK, first time in England. He played at the Brickyard. I thought, we'll go and have a watch of that. Yes. It was really good. He got amazing musicians, right? The keyboard player. He'd just finished, he was the session musician. So this guy had come over in his own right, and he'd grabbed a load of session musicians to do the tour. And he'd got the keyboard player, he'd just finished the new Elton John album, playing piano on the new Elton John album. He'd just been in America doing the latest Cher album, doing all the keyboards for that. Yeah. So he had proper top-notch
musicians. Yeah.
I think there was 6 people in the audience, and I don't know if you've ever been in the Brickyard, but 6 people.
I've been in
6
there,
people is
yeah.
not.
It's a good venue.
You can't mix 6 people around and make it look busy.
No.
It's like it was the whites of their eyes job. It was, but he gave his all. Do you know what I mean? Bless him. Yeah. He, and it was kind of like. I think at first he thought maybe more people would come in, and then when no one else is coming in, don't you? Yes. So he's kind of like, and then the vibe didn't change. He still was really good, but it became more personal, like he was just playing to you. Yeah. So he was just shouting at who wants to, what do you want to hear next? And he was such a good musician. Yeah. People were just shouting out. I don't know whether they were just shouting the most obscure country song they could possibly think of, but he always knew it. Yeah. And obviously the guy on the keyboards, he knew everything.
He would just go
he just did it all to him. Yeah. So, but it's a shame how the cover acts. We have a big, not a biggish. It's a biggish festival here, and it's just a cover acts festival called Wanna See. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
It used to be
out towards
Hutton in the Forest, going out towards on the Wigton Road.
Yeah, that's right.
It used to be at Penrith Football Club. Yeah. And that it's like a 3
it's all 2 or 3 tribute bands, isn't it?
All tribute bands, yeah. So they seem to do like a poppy day. Then you've got your Abbas and your Prince and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Then you've got an indie day, so you've got your Oasises and your Blurs. And then you've got a rock day, and then it's like Queen and Kiss and all them sort of acts. Yeah. But I mean, it people enjoy it. It doesn't. And if you go in there just as to be entertained, I mean, there's no way in the world Kiss are going to come and play Penrith, are they? So it's the best next thing, I suppose. And if there's a few you're going out with your friends and that, and I know a lot of these bands, in fact, because moving up from Birmingham to here, because I wanted to talk to you about what you go and see, and it was back in the city. Obviously, every band would pass through Birmingham at some,
Yes.
They'd all
see
come
anybody.
through. So all of the stuff I was into growing up, we got the chance to see them all, no bother. It was the Odeon, the NAC, all the various pubs and clubs in the city that would have smaller bits. So we saw a lot of what are now big bands at the stage where they were sort of playing a venue sort of similar to the the Brickyard back then. And you would literally you know, as close as we are to them.
Yeah.
But I can't think where I was going to go with this. Completely gone off track now. What's going on? So then we'd kind of tribute acts, and I'm really sorry, tribute acts, but this isn't a dispersion to anybody. It was just they always seemed a bit cabaret, and it was a bit because we'd always grown up watching the real thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we moved to tribute acts. No, I won't bother going. And then a friend of mine, he said, "There's a Marillion tribute act on. Come and see him." And Lynn, my wife, she's a massive Marillion fan, and we'd actually been to the Brickyard about 5 or 6 years earlier, and Fish had played there, and it was just like it was brilliant. He was just sitting in with the audience, just swigging wine out of the bottle, proper. And it was like you know, when the last time we'd seen him, it was at the NEC Birmingham, and then now we are pretty much doing this. It was like insane. Yeah. So I was like, well, we'll go and see. And you know what? Because I was expecting, and tonight, Matthew, we're going to be Marillion. But it wasn't like that. It was just like these guys. They were just obviously they were all from Glasgow, which helped.
Right. Yeah.
But they were all just massive Marillion fans.
Right.
So, and it was, and I thought, you know damn well that as a musician, they're going to get note for note. Yeah, those tunes because they do. You know, if you're a fan of that band, you're going to know it all.
Yeah, and you've created a tribute band. You're going to do it right.
Spot on.
But always, it's always this. Every band, the lead singer is iconic, isn't it? Yeah. You know, there isn't many generic lead singers in any band. You can normally recognise a band by the singer. So it's always going to be the singer that's going to let them down, isn't it? So I thought, I wonder, you know, is he going to do a parody of Fish? Is he going to do? But he was like, he did his own thing. You could tell it was. It wasn't Fish, but he wasn't trying to be Fish, if you know what I mean.
Right.
You've got to see it to believe it. It was kind of like, you could tell he was a massive Fish fan. He got all the mannerisms, and he was doing, but he wasn't doing it in a way to copy it. You know what I mean? He was being lost in the movement of the song. You know, you know, because you know it's like if your favourite song. You get the goosebumps and you do your bedroom dancing like no one could see. He was doing that on stage, you know, he had that passion. And I think that was it. It was the passion and the love. And that came across. And obviously the fact that he was proper Scottish helped. He wasn't like an Englishman trying to do a Scottish accent. And then, I don't know, it just kind of like thought, you know what, I'm going to give tribute acts a bit of a shot here. I've been to now, because the Brickyard does have a lot on. So I'll go quite often if there's a band that I want to see. Certain acts, you know, aren't ever going to play ever again unless you want to go see one of them hologram versions of them. So and I think, and it's usually a tenner tops, you know. So it's a good night out. There's a few of you go. You're listening to the songs that you want to listen to, and it's you know what? There's only been a couple where I've been, that was a bit cheesy, but most of them have been because you go with a different mentality now.
There must be certain levels of tribute bands. Sorry, tribute bands. There must be levels, and you know who you are.
We know who you are.
Where you know, some are just getting away with it.
Yes.
Some are okay, and some are it could have been them.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, there is, and there's certain ones that you know when they're announced that you wouldn't go and see them, because you've seen it before. You've once bitten, twice shy. So it's kind of like, but that's it in a nutshell. So, because who do you guys go and see now? If you wanted to see sort of
some of the names we've said,
some of the names we've said. I mean, and one of the venues. I mean. Well, we've got two great venues near us. We've got Kent, the Brewery Arts Centre, Kendal, or we've got Settle Victoria Hall, which is the oldest music hall venue in the country or something.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
No way.
And they still keep it running with volunteers and everything.
Settle as in Carlisle Settle?
Yeah. And it's a lovely venue, but they get a lot of good artists go through it. Yeah. Just like the brewery.
Yeah. So it's on the circuit as well for a certain sort of style of music.
So quite often if someone's not at the brewery but they're going to be at Settle, we'll go Settle because we're in the middle really, so we can go to either. You know, so at Settle, do some good ones. And there's a guy called John Bowden who is in Bellowhead. You've probably heard of Bellowhead.
Yeah.
There's about 15 of them, and they just have this massive sound.
Yeah.
Well, they're on and off. They're either touring or they're not together at all, because they're another one of these supergroup musicians where they're all brilliant at what they do, go away and do their own thing, then get together as Bellowhead.
Yes.
Well, John Bowden is the main guy.
Yeah.
But he does a lot of his own stuff. In the last few years, he's done a lot of his own stuff, which is kind of almost a sort of dystopian folk thing, really, where he's made up this. He's made up this world. This kind of almost like this kind of post-apocalypse kind of world thing, and these characters, but it's all done in a kind of modern folky way, awesome. And it's brilliant stuff.
We saw where he was taking you on this journey.
Takes you on this journey.
That's nice.
But he uses either on his own or he uses other musicians with him who are brilliant. Maybe one or two, or maybe three or four. But so some people like that. We'll go people like that. Seth, obviously, we've seen him a few times at the brewery or the Settle. So they're the kind of things always. So stuff that.
And again, some of these, because I'd been to see Bellowhead live, and Mike knew of them, but I hadn't been to see them, so we would see them together, and then one of their members is Benji Kirkpatrick, who also plays with Seth Lakeman.
Right.
And we've seen Benji playing with them, with the other bands, and then we were actually booked to see Benji on his own.
We're going to see.
It's been cancelled.
It's been cancelled.
Right.
Benji does his own stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bazooki stuff, but very upbeat and catchy stuff. And he's really hilarious and he's funny.
Yes.
He was going to play at Settle, but he's had to cancel it. When was that? Next week? No.
Yeah, 12th.
Yeah.
So, yes. Anyway, I think.
A little bit of a shame, but yeah. So they all, and we've got to know them through that. Like, who's playing?
We've discovered other people via some of the main bigger bands, or the different guises that have then come together. We're like, there's that one, but playing with that one.
And, a lot of the people I listened to prior to sort of recording stuff, they all seem to use one bass player.
Right.
Double bass player called Lucas Drinkwater. Lucas Drinkwater. Now he's now living in Australia, but he became a friend of mine because I realised he was playing bass for all these people, and I cheekily got in touch with him and said I'd just done an EP and I want to do an album. I had an album's worth of material, and I was like, right, I want to go somewhere really good and have someone produce it properly, and not just a local studio but somewhere, and he's had a studio in Stroud. Right. And so I said, do you do people that like me who are just, trying to get back on the scene, as it were? And he went, yeah, no problem at all. Yeah. So I went down there.
And it's one of these recorded?
It's not. It's one. It's the one before that one. Right.
Right.
It's. I can give you the links to that. It's called.
Could you tell in the mix or not? Could you tell it was done differently?
Well, it's just what he did with it musically. Yeah. I had the basic songs, and I did my guitar parts. Yeah. And did the vocals, and he put a lovely double bass on it.
Oh, right, so he played on it as well.
He played on it as well. So it was really good, and through that I kind of got contacts, and you start to sort of see who these people are playing with and who he played with, and then it just escalated from there really, because I started to get to know these people. So, for instance, this Kieran Algar, who played on the fiddle that we talked about before, did the Grenfell Tower song. He played fiddle on the album, but it was only because Lucas had asked him to. So I'll get my mate Kieran to do that. And I thought, are you talking about Kieran Algar, like the brilliant young fiddle player who's on the circuit? Yeah, Kieran is my mate. So I kind of got to know a few people that way. It was quite nice. It was like quite good to sort of get in the thick of it and have all these names getting that he was talking about. He was taking phone calls from people that.
You'd only sort of listen.
Like, I've just been listening to that person.
it's something.
And he's chatting to him. So it was really good. Yeah,
it is great.
Kind of made me feel like right. And he said, I like your songs. They're really good.
Excellent.
And like you found probably with the Brickyard and things, sometimes when you know a local venue or the one that's near you, then you start to get where the like Settle Hall now. Obviously, we're on their mailing list or whatever, or you get the alerts of sometimes that way we'll discover new artists or somebody a similar genre that we haven't heard of before. And I'll sometimes say to Mike, have you heard of them? Or he might have and I might not, and vice versa. And then we're like, should we go?
But
and I love that.
I've done that a few times. Like at the Brickyard again, there was this Japanese band called Showing in Knife, and they were a trio, and they're 3 Japanese girls, and they're all. Apparently they were Kurt Cobain's favourite band, right? So we're going back to like that era. And they'd been going for, I think they've been going since the 80s, right? Now you think Japan is quite conservative, particularly back then it was quite a conservative country. So then there's 3 Japanese girls decided to form their own sort of punky, rocky bands, right? And got going, and then kind of Kurt Cobain got hold of them, and I think they played some of the festival. He brought them across, and they played. I think they toured with them for a certain amount of time. But they were playing at the Brickyard, and man, they were insane. I've never seen so much energy. The drummer, I've never seen a drummer. She was just happy as Larry. Just constantly smiling. Just incredible. And they were all of a certain age, shall we say, but they were like the energy and the enthusiasm was still there, and it was insane. And then a couple of weeks later, I went to see another band called the Atom Age, and I always go on about the Atom Age on this show, but they were from the Bay Area, San Francisco. Another band, the first time in the UK, heard about the Brickyard. Man, do you remember a band called the Cramps? Yeah. So they were. Because I said to them afterwards, because they just came down into the audience afterwards, and it was just like they were loving it because it was like English accents, and they were loving Carlisle because it is a lovely city, Carlisle. Especially if you imagine you're an American tourist, and it's kind of like castles and walls and
as you go into
streets, and so they were loving it. So and I said, "Oh mate, you were just like the Cramps," and I don't know whether I just planted a seed, right? Because I started following them on Instagram. But all of a sudden now they're a Cramps cover band as well as and I thought that's great. The only thing they haven't got Poison Ivy on guitar, but they've got a guy on guitar. But nevertheless, they're still rocking it. But they were insane. There was probably 50, 60 people there, right? So it's still not a lot because I think that place takes about 350 when it's full. So that you can imagine it was still a bit gappy. But they just rocked that place like it was a sellout, and it was brilliant. And that's it. Because you know yourself, when you're on stage, when you're feeding off the audience, they feed off you, and it's like that sort of vibe that it's kind of never ends, doesn't it? And then because the more you get into it, the more they get into it, and the more they get into it, the more you get into it. And it's just that thing, isn't it? It's just everyone bounces off one another, don't they? So
it's like that when you get that vibe that they're like in the stories and what you're doing, and they're laughing and stuff. So you got them. So you just got to keep it going.
That's one of the things I said. Sorry, when we went to see Bellowhead and Mike hadn't, and I was like, "Oh, you got to see them live." And it's there might only be slight interactions between them on stage that show how much they're enjoying it, and then immediately again, and again, it goes back to that thing of live music. There could be some bands that I would think, or it's like when people say to you that, I didn't think I liked folk music, but sometimes I think, but it's because you're seeing it live as well. And you've totally got a different perception. You're totally picking up more of the atmosphere. You're involved somehow.
Totally.
Or if you just heard it, then
it's definitely not the same.
You haven't got that atmosphere.
Talking of live music, what do you reckon? Do you reckon you could give us a little ditty of something?
Could do, What would you like?
I don't know. Choices.
I think really we've got to, because we've talked about this Bella Sheephead thing. We're going to have to do that one.
Yeah, go on then.
Should we do that one?
Yeah, we'll do that one.
Do you need me to move out the road, or if I get up into this corner out the road, then you two can.
Is it better to be opposite each other like that?
Yeah, probably would be, wouldn't it?
For your camera.
Yeah, because. Yeah.
Do you want to go on that side?
Do you want me to go on that side?
I'll smoozle up into the corner. This is the first on Spudlife.
Let's do this then.
I'm very honest.
Come in. You got enough space?
I think so, yeah.
Do you want me to hold?
Yeah, please, yeah. It's just so I can get that out of there. Do I need that? I don't think I'll get it out.
Yeah, so I thought this was a big ukulele when I first saw you. You get that a lot.
Some people say that, yeah. Some people do say.
Because it was the 4 strings. I thought, oh,
is that a ukulele? Yeah. And it's might have to.
One of the cousins, like I say, who has played acoustic guitar a little bit. Never played live anything, just a little bit in the family. And when Mike played at my auntie's 70th, he was like fascinated with it. That's a 4-string guitar.
And
he said, how do you make a 4-string sound like it's got 12?
Yeah, and it's that, like I said before, it's that suggestion of chords thing. Where because you've got maybe playing 2 chords, but the other notes are just, the other strings are just ringing out.
Yeah.
So how do you make that sound like it's got 12 strings? Yeah. So I might have to tune. Actually, that sounds alright. Just make sure it's in tune.
It's going well, right. Did I tell you I've got 3 million subscribers?
That's right.
Do you want me to? Because I've got the tune here, so I'll quickly just tune it up.
We've both been off work today, which was really quite nice. We were catching up on a few things. We've been out with the dog, and then we came in and we were like, oh, I must get the... And the mandolin I usually play, got it out of the case, and one of the pegs was off.
No way.
Just before we were about to set off, and it was like, oh, I'll have to grab the other mandolin, and then Mike did retune it just before it came out, because he'd changed the tuning on this.
Yeah.
So I wasn't playing this because I'd been playing the other one. So yeah, we did have a quick turnaround with it. That's never happened before.
Groups in 2s, aren't they, on the mandolin? I've never noticed that before.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's not
so
watching,
probably thinking if Kate tunes it, another peg might fall off.
That's an Ortega. Is that an Ortega one? Is that Ortega?
Yeah.
Is that semi-acoustic as well, or not? Or is it just fully acoustic?
This has got
It's got a pickup in. Bringing back memories of when I was in a band and I was sat behind my drum kit while all the guitarists are tuning the guitars. I suddenly start hitting the snare drum.
With my 4 strings, it still sometimes takes a long time to tune up.
All good?
Happy.
Where's your mic? Because it fell off.
I put it there just for now. I wasn't sure where you needed it.
Yeah, I think that'll be all right then. We shall find out.
Yeah. So it might be able to cut through anyway. So. Try and play it gently.
Yeah.
Ready to rock.
Ready.
Yeah.
Is that in the way?
A bit lower down.
Yeah.
So this is.
This is a Bella sheephead.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say yeah. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Yeah, Bella sheephead. Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. No, sorry. No, I just
Wrong song.
I've got the wrong tune. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Oh, because I said I was gonna do a different one first. I mean, how many we doing? How many?
So this one is your light.
Well, okay. Then this one is going to be Eagle and the Child.
All right.
It's just because I've got to tune the string down.
Right.
One of these strings down.
And is
it's
this
better to tune it down than to do a few songs and have to tune it back up again?
Yeah.
Because that's when it'll just go.
Bung.
So on this album here, we've got one called Eagle and the Child.
What's the story behind it?
So the story behind Eagle and Child is well, that's Eagle and Child. This is a national thing, really, because it's inspired by all the pubs that are called Eagle and Child.
Right.
And the story, it probably varies from region to region, but the idea is a squire could only have girls.
Right.
I needed an heir.
He needed an heir.
Yeah.
And so he took a village maid.
Yeah. That is wicked way.
And and she became pregnant, and and it happened that it was going to be a boy. How they knew that, I don't know. But
she had a boy.
Had a boy, and he had the delicate situation of introducing this boy to his family somehow,
right?
To sort of as his own kind of heir.
Yeah.
So he hatched this plan to take the baby and pop it under a bush somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
And
so
go for a walk. Go
Yes,
for a walk. Go
so
for a walk with his wife.
His baby and want to take the foundling in.
And make sure his wife finds the baby.
His imagination.
So she and then because they haven't got a son. And she's only had girls. She says, "Oh, we really need to. Can we keep this child because it's a boy, And
she's go on.
And then he kind of says, "Well, we can do it. I don't know where it's come from." And she says, "Oh, an eagle must have dropped it from its claws,
Love it.
So that's fine. We'll take it home." And that's the basic story of all the Eagle and Child pubs across the country.
That's the story.
We've got one in Staveley, which is just outside Kendal.
Yeah.
The Eagle and the Child. Yeah.
Excellent.
And it was one of those ones where it's just dying for art to be a song. No one's ever done a song on it. So I did it on that album.
And then we're gonna.
The Americans have their stocks.
We have eagles.
We got eagles.
Eagles dropping them onto oak trees.
Gold eagle. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sorry. You want to do it,
Yes, Richie recently changed what I do on this one.
I did. I changed the chord because for you, didn't I? And now you're going, oh, which one is it? Okay, Eagle and Child. So. Esquire, you wanted for a son. Only girls one by one. In his desperation, he took a village maid, and with the patience, this girl he laid. And the story is so wild, Eagle and the Child. Was with child. How do I take this infant home? A plan must be hatched to pass my sorrow. And the story is so wild, Eagle and the Child. Eagle and the Child.
That was awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah. That sounded ace, didn't it?
Thank you.
That sounded absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
really good sound. That's got a lovely sound.
Yes, good
hasn't
sound.
Because I've only ever heard both of those plugged in.
Yeah,
so it's a different
and it's
sound
a different
again,
sound,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Really good.
Where I recorded most of these three definitely.
Yeah.
It's a Hungarian guy who has a studio, Heavy Rain Studios in Kendal.
Yeah.
A guy called Andrew's Kiss.
Yeah.
And he's very passionate about his sound and what microphones he uses. And he tends to, really mic it up, really well.
Yeah.
And place it exactly where it sounds sweet and.
Yeah.
And then, he's often commented he loves this guitar because it just places the mic and it just sings.
It did. It was
he loves
awesome.
it. Yeah, it's great guitar. Yeah.
What do you fancy doing for us next?
We could do this Bella Sheep.
Shall we do the Bella Sheep? The vampire song.
Yes. But that was another thing when I was, I've got to admit, how complete beginner I was.
Yeah.
When Mike had thrown the mandolin at me, I said play Shruti. And obviously then we'd practice a few bits at home. First time to go to a gig and be plugged in.
Yeah.
I was like, it all sounds so different and I can't quite hear what's coming through there. Or I would hear what's coming through there, but I'm trying to hear what's here.
Yeah. You're so used to hearing it acoustically.
Acoustically,
and then it comes through the monitor.
I kind of got used to doing both.
Transitioning.
Like plugging in and just hearing, and sometimes not even a monitor, just hearing what was coming out to the audience and thinking, I can just about hear it, that'll do. But because you know what you're doing. But you were like, what's going on? What's this dark magic? I can't hear myself.
Right chord.
So Bella Sheephead, this one. Okay, so
we're gonna have the
do you want the story?
The lead story. We sort of semi-mentioned
kind of
it
did it before, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, should we do it? Yeah.
Do the story for the
what we've got
listeners.
is on a fell near Keswick, I believe, or somewhere. I can't remember now. It's called Dunnerdale Fell.
Yeah.
And the story of a girl who lived on a farm.
Yeah.
And she had this pet lamb and took it everywhere with her. And then one day she looked out the window into the yard, and this lamb had been torn to pieces, by a fox.
Yeah.
And she was distraught, so she ran out and knelt down. And his blood was on her hands, and she was, oh my God, totally distraught.
Yeah.
But then she sort of did this, and the blood, and she tasted the blood, and it was like really sweet. And so she drank the blood of the lamb.
Yeah.
And then she kind of was demonized at this point, so she started to go out at night. And
to quench her thirst for more blood.
Lambs and sheep. And the farms were getting really scared because the sheep were being killed on their thing. And so between them, they was like, you must get your flocks off the fells at night.
Yeah. Something stalking.
Something. There's a sheep-headed demon. At this point, they decided.
That lovely girl.
Bella Sheephead. So because there was no sheep on the fells at night, she would find people.
Wow.
And kill them and drink their blood as well. And so that was it. So
that's the true story.
It's a true story. What are you laughing at?
Yes.
But it's just a Lakeland sort of legend.
Yeah.
But again, nobody else had done it, and I thought somebody would probably read that and go, "That's ridiculous." But I was like, "No, I'm going to do something like that straight away." So this is Bella Sheephead. Okay. Carefree then
She took to stalking the fells at night, feeding on a sheep or birdie light. And when the sheep blood no longer there, Bella drank the blood of the people instead. And Bella, she began to change. East of the fair, she became sheep-headed demon. Sheep-headed demon. Remove your flocks from the killing fells. All the farms began to yell. Bella, she began to change. Beast of the fell, she became sheep-headed demon. Sheep-headed demon. Remove your flocks from the killing fells. All the farms began to yell. Sheep-headed demon. Sheep-headed demon. Sheep-headed demon. Sheep-headed demon.
Awesome. I love that
These
song.
don't have neighbours.
It's like we always say. It's like Mary had a little lamb, but more grim.
Yes. Yes. Just a fairy tale.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
That was excellent.
Yeah.
Really, really, and it just really, that is perfect for the Lake District, isn't it? You know, that song could not really work anywhere. Maybe the Yorkshire Moors, I don't know, but
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
it's the Lake District. It just, you know, it just brings up all loads of images of like the misty fells
Yeah,
and
killing
the cold.
fells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can just see it.
Yeah.
It's
Don't want to be
absolutely
crossing
brilliant.
them at
No,
night on
exactly.
your own, do you?
Yeah. Yeah, because I made it. So I did that on purpose. I kind of like, I knew the story was going to make people a bit laugh
Yeah,
and say,
yeah.
"Oh, this is
Yeah.
ridiculous. What the hell? What
Yeah.
on about?"
Yeah.
But I wanted to make the song really dark and quite cool
yeah,
and moody.
Yeah,
you
it
know.
is.
And
It is.
and-
It's definitely. It's got such a good riff.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be electrified.
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
it'd be
Yeah. Yeah.
It'd be awesome, wouldn't it, if
Yeah.
you electrified
Yeah.
that?
And that's the beauty about this. This is another tune. This is GD
Yeah.
tuning, which is, you think like, what can you do with two notes
Yeah,
on
yeah,
4
yeah.
string, you know?
Yeah.
But the chord voicings are brilliant,
Yeah.
you know, for doing, you know, all these kind of things,
Yeah.
you know. It's just great. I love it. You know, it's just.
Do you ever play the sort of normal guitar?
Yeah.
Do you-
I mean,
it's
I
still.
first learnt on the 6 string, so
Yeah.
I know it.
Do you still, but do you always go to that now? Is that you pick
I
up?
do, yeah. I
Yeah.
do.
But it doesn't
not-
play
I'm-
usually
I'm-
the acoustic live ever, do you?
The 6
No.
strings upstairs in
Is
the
it?
spare
It's
room.
not
To be
really
fair,
used much,
I should
just
have it out.
gathering dust.
So
Yeah.
and play it. But yeah, I mean, I did play it recently, a year or so ago.
Did you?
Because a cover band wanted me to help them out
Yeah,
a bit, so
yeah.
I played a bit of bass and a bit of guitar for them. So
Yeah, yeah.
So that was the last time. So a couple of years ago, yeah.
So have you just got the one of those? Because I know guitarists are renowned for having a collection of.
I've got 2 tenors.
You
Yeah,
know
and
the
I
answer already, don't you?
I usually keep this one GD AD and the other one GD GD.
Right,
So
yeah.
I can just
So you just rather than
I can
piddling about, you just
put
grab
it
it.
down.
Yeah.
And
Just
it's,
thought we'd travel light to
Yeah.
Spudlife today.
and
So
it's
you could have
not-
brought
it's
two.
not- yeah.
it doesn't sound as good as this one. This sounds like, you know, it sounds.
That is, it's got a
'cause
really
it's,
nice
nice
sound.
body.
it's got a solid wood kind of
Yeah,
construction.
yeah.
It's the tone of it is just lovely. But the other one it does have some solid wood in it. You know,
Yeah.
it's got nice, but it's got a spruce top, so it's not quite. It's a bit brighter.
Yeah,
It's not,
yeah.
which I kind of like. So for things like Bella Sheephead, it's quite nice and bright.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
When I do the solo bit, when I go, they do all that.
Yeah,
It jumps out. It's
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's a bit sharper sound,
Yeah,
rather.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's got a really
Well, this
nice
has got
mellow
yeah,
sound.
this is
a bit.
good. I usually do. Yeah,
I prefer recording with this.
lots of
mostly, don't
chordy
you,
stuff
and
with
not
this
Yeah.
one, like the
specialised, that
previous
better.
one.
Yeah.
Where it's, you know,
So do you want us to give us one more tune of your choice?
Do you want to
Yeah,
do one with the
do one with the
Shruti,
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll do
we need
Could
to
either
discuss his the
Or
battery
you
looking
could
at.
do Dunmail if you
Yeah.
Well, so I could do Dunmail as well. We do another one. This is off Rum Tales, which is our new one. This is what's this one? This is called Burnt Horse Ridge.
And this is this a classic folk instrument that you're now getting out of your bag?
Well, it's actually an Indian.
Is it?
It's an Indian instrument, but
Right.
a lot of folky people use it because it's a drone.
Right.
You set a note on it.
Yeah.
Drones.
So for people that aren't watching this, it's kind of like a wooden box with like a bellows and some keys at the front. Yeah. So is it a bit accordion-esque? Does it come into that family?
Kind of, yeah. So you're right. It's got the bellows, and the keys. That's a scale of C,
right?
And then you just move the covers to reveal the reed aperture, which gives you the note. And you can you can have one note, or you can create a chord by opening the root, the third and the fifth, or just the root and the third, or the root and the fifth, or the minor third.
And what's it called again?
A shruti.
A shruti.
Yes,
A shruti or a shruti.
Shruti box. Shruti.
Yeah, shruti box.
There's a friend Julia we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Said she was like, "Why has Kate got the suitcase on stage?"
Why has she got a handbag on it? Why has she got a handbag on it?
Yeah, she thought I'd created an instrument out of a suitcase because she knows me well enough to know that's the kind of thing I might do at some point is create an instrument out of a suitcase. But Shruti box.
Yeah, awesome.
So Burnt Horse Ridge, there's a band you've probably seen actually, Burnt Horse.
Yes,
Burnt Horse. They're brilliant. I love it. But I love their name, and every time, when we started to do things with the Eden Valley thing, and we would sort of play, would be at the same night as them.
Yeah.
And I used to say to them, I love your name. If I'd had a band a few years ago,
it would have been that.
It would have been Burnt Horse, would have been the name of the band. I love it. And I said, where does it come from? And they went, because there's a Burnt Horse Ridge on Skiddaw, which is Keswick. And they were all from Keswick.
Yeah.
And they said, it's just a ridge.
Region, right.
We just like it, Burnt Horse Ridge. And so I looked it up, typical me.
Yeah.
And there is some sort of old, I think it comes from an old Viking name of some sort.
Yeah.
Where I think up on the ridge you look down and there's a house that you can see, a farmhouse or something called Brunt House.
Right.
And we think, the narrative that I read sort of assumed or seemed to sort of allude to the fact that the name has evolved over the time. So it's gone from Brunt House to Burnt Horse.
Yeah.
And
so
you can see this house from the ridge. It's Burnt Horse Ridge.
Yeah. Cool.
That was the inspiration for the song.
And this is the tune.
So I just wrote a song about the scenery of that bridge.
All right.
Yeah. And they I play it a few times and they love it and they keep threatening to cover it and I keep saying cover it.
Fill your boots.
It's got 3 chords in it or something. It's more complicated on this because I'm doing little lead lines and things and fragmented chords, but it is literally 3 or 4 chords. It's not... Okay. This one. I'm a blade of grass, moss on the cracks, and the stones all around. The rarest of flowers, wild and free, and the rocks upon the screen. Oh, burn marks on the ground, no equine reference found. It's a mystery, and I will see my home from Burnt Horse Ridge. I am the wire to keep the fell sheep in. I am the care and the tokens we share, the air so breathe me in.
horse ridge. I am the sparkle on the stream, the rushes and the reeds. I am the wind, so hear me now. I'm the music in the trees. No burn marks on the ground, no equine reference found. It's a mystery, and I will see my home from Burn Horse Ridge. It's a mystery, and I will see my home from Burn Horse Ridge. It's a mystery, and I will see my home from Burn Horse Ridge.
Awesome. That is fantastic.
Okay.
That
Contrast to Bella.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
that really painted a picture of that area, didn't it?
Yeah.
Unbelievably
yeah.
so. Unbelievably. So poetic.
Yeah.
And that just had just a lovely sense of
Just a
atmosphere,
nice-
doesn't
yeah,
it?
exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
because I couldn't hear it at first, and then you can kind of, before you realise, it's just there.
It's just there,
isn't
yeah,
it? You know, it's not
Yeah.
overpowering.
Well, again, being in a slightly smaller space, I
Yeah.
was a bit wary
Sort
of
of
giving it
giving
full,
it-
and
yeah.
Because in
can
some
become
songs,
overpowering.
Can it?
Again.
yeah,
Yes,
some
yeah.
songs it's going to learn to, because you can learn to play it in
Yeah.
in a sense in how much
Yeah,
beans you give it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Because with that one, it needs that soft approach. But on some songs we do, she'll do it soft in the chorus verses,
Yeah.
and give it some
Give some
welly
welly.
in the choruses.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it just lifts it.
Yeah. But so where did you come across that instrument? Was it?
Well, I'd
Mike's
seen
one.
other people, other folkies using them.
Yeah.
Where they would just set a note going "Oh," and just sing, sing.
Almost like a sea shanty type thing.
Yeah,
just
that
with
kind
that
of
in it.
just
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And they're really good. I want one of those. And then I found someone who was on Marketplace. I found one. Lady in Sedbury was selling it.
Yeah.
And they're a lot of money there, and they're not cheap.
I don't know.
And I thought, oh cracky, that's a good price. So
Yeah.
I literally went and grabbed it.
Yeah.
And I was going to record with it, but then never got round to it. And then it was only when Kate came on board.
Yeah.
that
That was like,
I
I've got
said,
just a
"Oh,
job
I
for
know
you."
what you can do. Yeah. Or what else you can do.
It's, you
so
know
that-
what? I prided
so
myself
was
and
trying
thought I knew every musical instrument and music, but I've never heard of one of those.
Do you know,
or
every
even
time we
seen one.
play,
There'll be somebody
usually there's a
Yeah.
beeline for it,
But yeah,
where you
yeah.
get like 6 people going, what's
Yeah.
this, what's this, what's
that?
this?
Yeah.
And you get all the attention.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
I'm trying. No. But it's quite nice though. It's nice to have something
It
that
is,
then is
it is,
something
yeah,
unusual
yeah,
or a
yeah,
bit different.
yeah.
So yes.
So I'm guessing if you listen to a lot of Indian music, you'd hear one of these
Yeah.
sort of in the background.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen out for that now.
There's,
Well, some of the
there's
families where there's some that obviously it's the same kind of principle, but it's the other way up.
Right, yeah.
playing
yeah.
it
So
or playing it with
I think it's
keys.
probably the English version is the same kind of thing, where you still got your bellow,
Yeah,
but you've got like a little keyboard in
yeah,
front of it.
yeah.
So you can
Yeah,
play
but-
chords
yeah,
or
yeah.
note or just notes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and but still have the
Yeah,
thing going.
yeah. Awesome. So what's the next thing then? Obviously you've got the storytelling.
Storytelling is going to be our live
That's
thing
your
that will
next.
take us into autumn and probably next
Well,
year.
Yeah.
Our
and try and
very
develop
next
it.
thing, isn't that? But yes.
Oh, I mean,
Sorry,
our very
that's our
next
next
thing, sorry.
project.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
but
Very
yes.
next thing. Oh, where's our little list? We've got quite a few.
You've got much of a summer
2,
season?
4,
Sort of
6.
few?
Quite a few.
Have you?
Yes.
There's
yes.
like 10 or 12 things through the summer.
Yeah. All
Um,
kind of locally.
Various
Yes.
things. There's up in Langdale.
Yeah.
There's 2 places opposite each other. There's the Dungeon Gill Hotel and
Yeah.
there's Stickle Barn
Yeah.
and a bar called Lantis Slee's Bar.
Yeah,
Lantis, we didn't know what that
Another
was.
character
But
we're gonna
Lantis
write
Lee
about
is a
now.
character
Yeah.
from the Lakes.
Yeah.
He used to do bootleg booze and stuff. So we're gonna. That's a song.
another-
That's
yeah,
another. That's
yeah,
a new
yeah.
one. But anyway, and I think they
each do live
sort of
music.
each
Are they
do
having
live
like
music.
a little mini
And so-
festival type of thing?
Well, the
One of
Stickle
them
Barn one will do one probably in
Right.
October. I think.
Are they?
It's not been.
Oh, so it's not like a mini, like different bands on the same day all down the 3 different venues.
No,
it's all individual.
At Stickle Barn, they'll have
individual times.
They'll have the bar, bands in the bar.
Yeah.
There's an upstairs bit. There might be bands in there. And
Yeah.
I think they do a marquee outside.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
hopefully they're going to do that this year.
Yeah.
It's just in the planning stages, I think.
But
the hotel do music as well. But we've played there before with the Valiant Nights, and they've asked us to go again.
Excellent.
So we've got a couple of those Valiant Nights. We've got a couple of things with Lanty Sleaze at the with both Kate and I plus Valiant Nights. What else have we got? There's a folk club near Lytham called the Lowther Pavilion.
Yeah.
They're on the circuit this is a good one because they're on the circuit for all these all the people that we listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we got in touch with them to say, have you got any, opportunities for us as a duo to go down there, even though we're not that well known particularly.
Yeah.
But but I do, and I sort of do a few name drops, like I've supported these people, I've done that, and I've played this, and I've recorded this with Lucas and whatever. And quite often people don't get in touch. Yeah. But they did, and they said, "Oh, we haven't done our schedule for the autumn, but would we thought, it's going to be a no." And then in the next paragraph it was, "But we're doing a festival in the summer, so we'd love to have you."
Awesome.
So we're going to do that.
Excellent. And then that's what it leads to, though, isn't it? Yeah. Once you've got your foot in the door.
Yeah.
It's
that's a good one. Because it means we'll pull the stops out for that one. And see if we can get some
of the
more traction.
Yeah.
What else have we got?
Got the Lane Head.
Oh, there was a
retreat place.
Yeah,
to play.
a place in Coniston, like a retreat
Right.
place. Must have seen one of our posts on Facebook or something and thought it was what they would after, like an evening of songs and stories. And so
we're perfectly for a retreat.
Nice. So we got in touch. So we're going to do that. That's in June. And then
Kirkgate Arts as well.
Kirkgate Arts in Cockermouth. We played there before, and they've been down to get us back. And it's always been. I think we were going to go back last year sometime. Yeah. But I think I was ill, so we couldn't.
Right. Yeah.
And then Katie, who runs it, was desperate to get us back, and she'd seen that we've got this duo as well, and she said, "Will both of you come and play? So I'll support myself.
Yeah.
So we'll do.
Have a good costume change.
Bri Bramble disguise.
To then be one of the knights.
Have a costume change, hats and stuff. But we're going to do that with us and then the Valiant Nights.
Excellent.
And what else we got? There's a Scottish guy got in touch with us, and he runs tours for American tourists around Scotland and just into Cumbria, so as far as here, North Cumbria. And there are certain venues. I think there's a couple in Penrith, and he got in touch with a guy called, you probably know him, Peter Michael Rowan, who was
of course
he was on the desk at the thing.
And
said, "Peter, do you know of any people I want to do some gigs for these American tourists?" And he said, leave it to me, I'll organise it. So straight away he got in touch with us and said, "Will you do it?" So we're doing 2 of them.
You'll be perfect for that.
Yeah, because they'll love it, won't they?
They'll
love the stories.
You can embellish those stories even more.
They'll love Bella Sheep.
They will absolutely love that. Yeah.
So that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be excellent.
And that's one where because I always ask this, I always say, "Do we need any equipment?" So and Pete was like, "No, just do it acoustic. You're fine." Which is great. It's much more free to stand up and just play, bang it out, than be restricted with a microphone. When we played the other week, last Saturday, God, it seems like a month ago, but I set up just a microphone with an amp. Just real basic for us both, like a studio one. And it just picked up everything. And it worked a treat like a bluegrass. And we wanted to test that idea, and it was probably a bit ambitious, but it did work. And we thought, I'd like to go down, because Peter does that. Peter Michael Rowan does that. He does exactly that. Wherever he goes, whatever he does, even if he's on his own, he uses this bluegrass mic. And I was impressed with the sound of that, because we went to a village hall.
Was it Tufton?
No, it was the other one. Great Salkeld.
Right,
And we had the PA, because we were the Valiant Nights, And he said, "No, I just want my microphone. You know, do you need a microphone? Do you need? No, I just want that. You know, he just wanted his microphone. That was it. His brass thing. It's just fantastic.
But he's got some voice though, anyway. You know? He doesn't really need a mic.
No, he doesn't. No. But you know what? His guitar sounded great. His voice sounded great. And I turned to you and I said, "You know, we should go down that route because minimal equipment, just like one microphone." There's a few duos actually that I don't follow particularly, but I know of them on the circuit that do that, and I can see why they do it because then I can have the equipment, just pitch up with the guitar, it picks everything up.
Well, in fact, because I saw
just swap position.
There was exactly. So I saw a band called Rob Heron and the Tea Party.
I've seen them.
Yeah. Awesome. That was at Plug and Play.
Yeah.
And they dressed the part, don't they? They lived the life for it. But they had one of those studio mics.
Is that what they had?
They had one of them proper old sort of 1920s style.
Yeah,
you know, the big massive, like the old RKO
brass,
on the old RKO.
They've got like a round with the springs holding it.
Yeah. So, and they were all playing. So there was a ukulele, mandolin, I think a uke, guitar, a couple of guitars, double bass player, and a banjo, and they were just coming in, singing, coming out.
Yes.
It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah. And you know, so the sound engineering is not the best at Plug and Play, but it is what it is. It's but I mean, even that was, it was awesome. It was really, and it was just, I think their whole image helps as well because they got that kind of 1920s vibe going on as well, haven't they? So it was just the fact that they could play. They'd really obviously researched it massively. And it worked so well, and it was great to see something rather than everyone having their own separate mic. And it was just proper.
All the bluegrass bands in America do that.
They still do it now.
And when they record, they just set that up in the studio. And just they have a position that they're in. And if the mandolin's got a solo, he just steps forward and then steps back. And the balance is distance.
And you've been saying it for a while, and then when we saw Peter live doing it, we were like, that was another reminder to do it. And for me, it's less intimidating. Less equipment and less wires.
It was great. It was really good for your storytelling, because when you did your storytelling thing, you could just be, it was just there in front of you, not right there, it was right there. So you could just be...
You could be more animated and not worried.
Picked everything up, and it was really good.
Which is, like you say, if you've got those props things in front of you, it makes you a little bit more maybe self-conscious in a way.
And it's a barrier between you and the audience, as well. It's another barrier.
I've used those for years, those things. The basic SM58 mic there, really. And when it's great, you do it, but you kind of aren't doing this all the time. So you are you're doing, and it does sometimes put you off, because you're thinking, if I turn away, is it going to pick up? And you get a bit worried, and and you can go wrong then because you're worrying about something that you shouldn't be worrying about.
You should just be in the flow. It's funny, isn't it?
So I'm keen. Well, and funnily enough, a friend of ours called from North Yorkshire, Kim Rawls. He's a brilliant folky artist as well. And he's got a big voice. And he kind of was on about those, going, I went to this club, this thing, and I played this open mic thing or whatever it was, and they were using one of those horrible, and we were going, no, we like those, that's what we want, and he went, no, and he was it was the Antichrist for him. He likes his microphone, and we were saying, no, we want to go down the route of the thing that you don't like.
But Mike's, it's good because Mike has experienced both, and we'll use either. So we can,
so you can
do it with any
adapt.
setup. We can adapt to it.
I'm more used to the
but
other
if
one,
it is just us, we're kind of thinking.
But I did it was an experiment last week, wasn't it? That is my one, which is a studio one, really, for vocals.
But
it works.
It might work. I'm sure it'll work. Because it'll pick up. It's whatever they call it,
the range of it.
The range of it, is it's not narrow, is it?
They're designed to pick up on a specific
I'm sure it will work, and it did. I was quite surprised that it worked really well.
Excellent. So that sounds awesome. It sounds like everything's coming together and things are going good. I'm
really excited about our storytelling.
That sounds really good.
And going into next year, we'll do a lot
because
more
I think as well. I think that'll be good because I don't think many people do that, do they?
No, and I think that's what I like about that. Is that it's kind of under the table at the minute but it is becoming more popular in storytelling gigs. Because like you went to that one in February.
Yes.
And I was like, storytelling, you go,
Yeah.
And then she said it was brilliant.
I said, I think you'll enjoy it.
You were telling me about one of the stories. It was the
Master Misery, the Polish tale.
And she was telling me, and I closed my eyes as she was telling me, because she was just regaling what she'd heard, but in her own way. And after, and I opened my eyes at the end, I said, "That's brilliant."
Yeah. And I think that's the thing with this, like podcasts and that. It's basically podcasts are like the modern version of storytelling, aren't they? Because there's podcasts like this when you get people on and interview them, but there's also podcasts where people just tell stories, and it's great because like the art of conversation is dying anyway, isn't it? But to go to a venue and to be able to see a human being telling a story,
reaching people,
and it's kind of dived into it a bit, haven't we? And we've discovered that there are little movements and groups that are doing these storytelling things, and I think it's the right time because I think the audio books have just gone through the roof. People like to just relax and listen to an actor telling them the story.
People are listening to podcasts. People are watching podcasts.
So to do the storytelling, so I think it is becoming popular because of that culture. People listening to things.
And I bet you in certain venues, I think a lot more venues will open up that maybe wouldn't have done a storytelling. So, because you can imagine if you're in say for instance a village hall, and you're on the plastic chairs, and you kind of you're getting into it, but you imagine doing the same sort of thing in something like a nice cozy bar type environment, where there's nice comfy seats and because I know there's a new bar just opened in town. It might be worth approaching them actually. It's in the new Squares development. I don't know if you know Penrith that well. So it's in the new Squares development. So where you park at Sainsbury's and you walk through as if you're going into the town centre. You can't miss this new bar. I can't think what it's called, but it's all very. It's a chain. It's basically an upmarket Witherspoons, to put it bluntly. But it's nicely done. It's tastefully done. It's got settees. They don't allow standing. It's only like a seating only sort of place. So it's all very quirky. There's
sofas. And stuff.
And nothing matches.
You
get the so you get the vibe I'm getting. So
that's like Settle Garden.
So, but I can imagine now their ethos is to open it up as it is a pub, does food, does breakfast, does brunch, then it becomes like a bar and restaurant and an evening type thing. But their whole thing is to open it up as a sort of community hub. This is what their thing is. And just talking, because I've been there a couple of times with friends, and there's this one kind of corner of it that you could be away from the rest of the bar. Do you know what I mean? And it's the settees in there. And you'd have maybe 20, 30 people, but it would be because there's no music playing in the rest of the bar, so it's not like a jukebox going.
They want conversation.
And I think, you know what, that would be worth. It definitely worth. You know what I mean? It just.
What's it called?
I'll find out and I'll email it.
But definitely,
But it is a chain. They've opened one in Carlisle. They've opened one here. I think they're opening one in Kendal.
All right.
They're kind of on the up and up.
Oh, right, okay.
And that is their thing because they like people to sort of come down and play Scrabble or start a meeting group for. So they want it's not just all about we want you to come get hammered and drink as much alcohol as possible. They want it to be an
experience.
So with you, is that the place? That's it. Arturo Lounge.
I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Sorry, Arturo Lounge. I'm pronouncing it incorrectly.
So, but like I said, it is part of a chain, but we don't hold that against them.
I wonder if they would.
But you know what I mean? You'd get that
the storytelling.
Because you can imagine that people. You can imagine that people would, kind of sit and close their eyes. You know what I mean? And listen. Because I'd be sort of, you get involved in the story, and depending on how animated the storyteller is, you might just want to just sit back and just
I
get
did that
lost
when
in the...
Kate told me. She said, "I'll tell you one of them." She said, "I might not get it right, but I'll just tell you
what I remember
about it." And I said, "Okay then." So I closed my eyes, and it was brilliant. And it's afterwards I said, "Do you know, I could see that. I could see that, and it was there, and it was lovely, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
What a cool thing." And that was the light bulb thing. Like, we've got
to
use this in what we do. You know.
So the thing about performing live again, it's like what we're touching on independent shops there, but what they're competing with, because we can get so much online or at the touch of a button.
Yeah.
People are leaving the houses. They want to be drawn to something that's
experience. Yeah.
And that's why a lot of bookshops now have cafes as well, because they can get books online, get audio books online. Yeah. But if they go to if there's something else there, then it's an experience.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're trying to do as well, and keep that human connection, and keep some stories going that have been passed on.
Yeah. Keep the tradition going. It's awesome. Excellent. Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. It's been absolutely far better than I anticipated. So I hope everyone watching and listening has enjoyed it as much as we have tonight. If you have, you know what to do. I don't bother going down the old like and subscribe route. It's just like, if they're going to, they're going to. So they don't need to be told. So, but anyway, thanks to Mike and Kate. I was going to say Holly for some reason. I don't know why. So, for coming on, and we shall see you all soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. See ya. Bye. Yeah.